Very good evening wherever you happen to be watching around the world. Thank you for joining us here on ASR Supercars Championship broadcast. It's round 3. It's the first trip across the ditch for the year. That's right, I said the first trip across the ditch. There's 2 this year for the first time in a couple of years. And the first one of those trips is the streets of Hamilton, the concrete line jungle. That was a pretty popular choice when it was introduced a couple of seasons ago. It has had a year off in between. So this is the first proper test on New Zealand soil for the ASR Supercars field in 2024. And we'll be back here a bit later in the year for the Topor event, which will be the second last event on the calendar. My name's Steve DeVries, and opposite me, of course, as always, is Benjamin Rhodey Rhodes. Rhodey, it's a pivotal sort of part of the championship here because we've got a good points gap for the leader out in front, but the chase is on behind. It is quite close in the order. It's still very, very early in the season, but already a little bit of a trend starting to emerge about who's going to be at the pointy end of proceedings and who's struggling to keep up.
Absolutely. Good evening, Ned, and good evening to everyone who's watching along at home, or morning, or afternoon, or wherever you're watching from. And yeah, as things have been seen so far this season, we got 5 races in the books, 2 rounds done. Maybe not a big surprise to see us leading the points in Kurt Stenberg, but we've got a good, healthy field of challengers up there with him as well. Wayne Walker's not too far behind, one of the new drivers for this year. Noah Turrow's in there as well. Actually, Noah Turrow, the fastest of the CRE drivers as he's hit so far, only by 5 points over last year's season champion. And we've got Anthony Green sitting in the top 5 as well, and that's pretty good for somebody who's coming in from Super 2.
Yeah, that's right. There's a few drivers that are doing double duty this year in Super 2, or the Development Series as it's affectionately known, and in Supercars. So you toss those drivers into the mix. You have one substitute tonight, or 2 of them are substitutes tonight, but the ones that are in full-time capacity are the likes of Ryan Smith, Anthony Green, Darren Loughnane is in there as well. Ben Hall, that makes 4. And Steve Burko, if you add him in, that makes 5. So there's at least 5 full-time drivers in both series this year, and then the substitutes that are coming in and those that get offered a wildcard appearance as well. So good mix of drivers. The Kiwis will be they'll be keen to put their best foot forward tonight, I think, as well. First of 2 home races for them this year. And if you add the math up tonight, you've got a couple of them in the field. So you've got NZ Snipes, who's filling in for Peter Thrower. You've got Tim Redmond, who's in his usual car. And then you've got Ryan Smith, who's in his Sideways Esports machine as well. So there's at least 3 of them out there that are definitely looking to put on a good show and show the guys from across the other side of the ocean that they're no slouch and that they're definitely going to make life rather difficult for them tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, I'm pretty sure Ryan isn't a Kiwi. I'm pretty sure he's been with some other SES blokes in Victoria. But even without SES actually having any of the Kiwis on the grid, they do have Kiwis in the team. They've got Reese McGilvray and I'm trying to remember the second driver.
Palfrey.
Jacob Palfrey, who've got the dedicated team. But there are a couple of teams out there that are running, well, I say a couple of teams, really, it's just SES tonight that are running special Kiwi liveries. And it's the 2 SES Dart cars, and I had to specify that because you'll see when we see the liveries soon. The SES Dart cars are the ones running fade detailing down the side of the doors, and that is on behalf of Reese McGilvray. So they don't have a Kiwi driver in the team, but they are running with Kiwi backing.
Yes, tonight. That's right. There's a couple of other tribute liveries that are in the field as well on the other Kiwi, or the SES team that you'll see as well when we get into qualifying in a short few moments' time. It's the first time as well for 2024 that we have a top 10 shootout tonight as well. So qualifying will be the first session up that you'll see tonight. Top 10 shootout to follow after that. That sets the grid for race 1. And then race 2 follows on with a progressive grid format from race 1's finishing order. So a bit of a different format, 3rd different format in 3 consecutive weeks here in ASR Supercars. And let's have a look at where we are tonight. So off to the North Island of New Zealand and for the 3rd round of this year's championship. So it was a popular street circuit choice, as I said back in the day, Rhodey, when we first introduced this circuit into ASR Supercars competition. I think this is about its 3rd time that it's featured on the calendar, and it's definitely a challenging one. That back chicane is going to catch a few drivers out tonight.
Absolutely, yeah. Second or third time that we've been here. I remember the last time was the inaugural year that we were running the full dev series, which was 2022. And yeah, this track is gonna probably be one of the highest chances of a safety car that we're gonna have this year. We are going to Gold Coast, and we know what Gold Coast is like. But yeah, this track, we only got through in 2022 in Dev Series by having an entire field anticipating a safety car and behaving as a result. You were in there, I think, with us. I was in there as well, and I have quite a few guys, some of the Supercars guys from this year were in the Dev Series at the time as well. We all went in with the expectation of a safety car, and we didn't get one. You fast forward 2 years to last week, and I think we had one in at least one of the races. It was only a week ago, but my memory's dragging on me. But yeah, it's the chance of a safety car pretty high around here. That back chicane definitely a point, but just the narrowness of the track, and while there is runoff, it does still leave you a bit proximal to the track, and well, you've got plenty of room to get a proper flick spin on. Trying to get in there and rejoin without losing too much time is a bit of a balancing act.
Yeah, that's right. So the runoff areas are where the heavy braking zones are. So turn 1, turn 2, turn 8, turn 9. They're the primary areas where the runoff is available for you. And the interesting note that I remembered from when I put the map together here, when this track was introduced, it was only classed as 9 corners because all the little inconsequential corners, turn 10 and turn 12, weren't marked as corners, and the back chicane was treated as 1 corner, almost like the Americans, because they don't know how to label corners when you look at some of their tracks where the corners are labelled 8 and 8A because it was an afterthought after the fact, and then the next corner becomes 9 when it should be 8, 9 and 10. So on that map it is actually correct. There are 13 distinct corners on this circuit where you do have to turn the wheel, unlike the older map where there was just the 9 corners. So 3.3 Ks, it's a short lap there. The lap times are in the low 1 minute 20s. So fastest time in practice at the moment, 1 minute 20.7, which is Kurt Stenberg, who is our series leader at the moment. But for most of that session, Rody, we did say it was Wayne Walker who was at the top of the pile into the low to mid 121s. So we're not really quite sure what the race pace is like and what drivers have been doing over the course of practice. But they definitely have been a bit of a mixed bag. The field spread's not too bad, actually, I would have thought, considering some drivers that have hardly turned a few laps. It's about a 4 second or 3.5 second field spread.
Yeah, and keep in mind that field spread will be including drivers right at the top of the pile, the likes of Kurt Stenberg, Wayne Walker, Luke Newing, who I imagine were out there on quali sims, and I know people down the back end of the pile, Dan Lecava was one of them, dedicated his entire session to just running race runs on hard tires. So that's why he's done further than we're used to seeing him. But that's one of the considerations coming into qualifying in the shootout. The tire compound from memory does track across all 3 sessions. So if you you run a compound in qualifying and set your fast lap on that compound, you've then got to run it for the shootout. You then run it for the start of the race. And what that's meaning is that some drivers are perhaps, especially if they're going for a bit of personal glory, they're thinking about that shootout. They're thinking, right, I need to qualify on a soft tire to be able to get into the shootout, to then run a shootout on the soft tire. But at the same time, the strategies and the way those are going to play out, not too different to where we saw things play out last week. Granted, the races are longer, but the fuel tank is bigger here. So it's pretty equal in terms of that logic, but it's very much either a soft or a hard strategy. And if you want to start the race on the hards, you're going to have to qualify on the hards, which means you're probably going to miss out on a top 10.
Yeah, that's right. So there are going to be a few varying strategies tonight that we are going to have to pay a little bit of attention to. We will get into a little bit more of that in the race itself. We have got a little bit of a hold here as well. There are a few drivers that are jumping in and out of servers and things at the moment, so we are going to give them the time of day to get in and get that done. And actually it's a good time for me because they've just realised there's an extra little update that I need to do to fix a couple of cars, to put a couple of liveries in the game. So we're going to watch Brenton Foley, who's running around out there at the moment. That's the back chicane we were just talking about there, Roddy, that he's just gone through, which there's a very, I guess what's the right word for it? There's an interesting line that you need to take to get through that part of the course as well, isn't there? It's a very difficult sort of chicane to take properly.
Yeah, there is. two years ago, I think it was widely held as a bit of a mystery, bit of a dark arts thing. It was only really Kurt Stenberg who it makes appropriate. He's back again. He's dropped out of the session just quickly doing some changes, but he was top of the session. He was the one who'd mastered that chicane. He was the one able to fly through there at such a speed difference to those cars around him. I think especially when he was down the grid at one point that he was actually having to consider the cars in front of him, like you do anyway, but more specifically because his speed through the chicane was 30, 40k an hour quicker than anyone else. And that was what set him up really nicely. 2 years have passed, and because he streams his POVs, or at least he was at the time, I'm not sure if he's streaming again tonight, but when he does stream when he was racing 2 years ago, he's streaming his POVs, and it enabled people to go back and have a look and go, right, how do we take this chicane? And I wouldn't say the collective has gotten to the point where everybody knows where it is, but I think everybody knows the gist of the line, and this probably comes through, we might get a demonstration of this. The idea is you hack a little bit of the left chicane, a big bit of the right chicane, a little bit of the left chicane again, which is more or less what he's done there. He's hacked a little bit more of that third chicane, but generally the idea is you give up, you take a little bit of curb on the left-hand side, a lot of curb on the right-hand side. It's a combination of where the track limits are, and I suppose how you want the car to track and how you want it to twitch through the chicane, because with a chicane, you're putting differential drag on each side of the car as a tyre picks up on the chicane and has to then climb on the chicane, and different little bit of drag in the tyre versus where the driving is at. So there's a little bit of yaw in the car as you go over it, and it's why if you throw it over a bit too hard or at the wrong angle, you get quite big yaw and you get thrown to a wall somewhere, or you come out the other end spinning. But yeah, Foley's line through there was pretty good, and that's basically what drivers are going to be aiming to do, is a little bit of the right, a little bit of the left, quite a decent hack of the right and a little bit of the left, and that carries you through in what seems to be the fastest line. It's also a clean line, importantly, and it seems to be the most reliable. That said, these cars, I think, have it better than we had it in Dev Series. The Gen 2 cars are relatively stiff over a curb. Gen 3 drives them a little bit better. So these guys are going to have a much better experience than they were having 2 years ago around here, and a better experience than the guys had in Dev Series last week, which I think those guys who have come up from Dev Series or are doing both are going to appreciate.
Yep, no, I agree. It's definitely going to be an interesting sort of an element just to see who can get that chicane right. And what you were saying there, Rody, I do recall a couple of drivers going and talking, I think to the likes of Kurt Stenberg in the time between when the track was released and when everything was set and ready to go, and actually just asking for some pointers. And I'm led to believe you quite happily shared that information, especially with a couple of people in development series. So that'll be the bit for me, is that, as you're saying, if people have gone and done their homework, and I'm sure a lot of them have gone and done their homework, they'll come into tonight, they'll feel pretty comfortable trying to tackle that chicane, but it is a fine line. It does take a little bit of balancing, and you've got to sort of just getting that line right is critical, because it has been told to the drivers it is a one-line groove through that part of the course. So at some point before the 150 metre board, somebody's got to give. Somebody has to back out, and you have to fall back into line and get through that chicane. That's the rule that's been put in play with the drivers tonight, and they've got to find a way to make that work. That's the simple fact of the matter. So if you're not in a position where you can take an unabated line into that corner, like what Luke Speck's sort of doing there, if you're sort of going into that side by side with somebody else and someone has to back out, your concentration is divided. So you are going to struggle to potentially get on the right footing for that particular part of the track. So you want to be able to do it consistently, but you want to be able to do it without all the necessary or unnecessary distractions that go along with it.
Exactly, yeah, and it's also the thing for drivers, and you're probably going to see you might see a little bit of a tweak in the behaviour as the race goes on, because it is the easiest place on the track to pick up a track cut. There are a few other sections of the track that can pick you up as well, but it's easily the chicane that gets you. And not only does it sting you once, if you're particularly out of shape, you can pick up two. I think you could technically probably pick up three if you're really out of shape, but I think if you get three, you're going to end up on your roof as well, at which point the track cuts don't really mean too much. But yeah, you're looking at least a reasonable two track cuts if you get the line wrong. You've only got three to work with before you start biting into drive-throughs. So anyone that's down to their last track cut, I don't expect these guys to be getting more than one on the run through there. But once you're down to your last track cut, you might find guys, especially if they've got wiggle room to work with for the position, perhaps taking a bit more of a meandering line through the chicane, steering a little bit closer to the apex, as it were, rather than going the other side of the apex like we've seen them do. Just trying to make sure that they keep themselves clean and don't trigger that third track cut there, because the drive-through round here is going to be pretty long, and it's a very easy place to pick up a track cut, and you'd rather lose, half a second maybe per lap in the last 10 laps than pick up a 30-40 second drive-through.
That's right, yeah. And importantly, we were looking at some of the statistics graciously provided by Daniel Cox overnight as well. And the drive-through penalty here is massive. It's something like around 40 seconds. It's pretty savage, and especially around a track that is 1 minute and 20 seconds long, so 100 seconds long. It's almost half a lap penalty just in a drive-through. So you do not want to cop one of those. And especially over a 31 lap distance, as both races are officially 31 laps long tonight. So a little bit longer than what Development Series was. They did a pair of 75 kilometre races a week ago, and we are doing a pair of 100 kilometre races tonight, with the shootout obviously in between. And we are now getting ready for qualifying. So this is the bragging rights session, as we like to call it. You need to get in, get your lap done, and post the best time on the board you possibly can, because tonight you've also got to make the shootout. And you've only got 10 minutes to do it. Same as every session, every single Supercars round. There is only 10 minutes of qualifying. So the impetus is get onto the track, get the lap done, and at least put something on the board, and then come back for a second bite. I've seen plenty of drivers that will sit up in the pits, and they'll actually wait, and they'll wait, and they'll wait, and they'll wait some more until the opportunity comes. But this is a tight track. It's a narrow circuit, and it's a very short circuit, so you don't want to waste too much of that precious time. And as we say that, here comes the field out into pit lane, and it's being led by Ryan Smith. Now, this is what you were on about a little bit earlier, Rhodey. Sideways Esport Dark cars. They're running there's a couple of cars running alternate liveries this weekend. The Sideways Esport Dark cars have gone light, and the Sideways Esport Light cars have gone dark. So these are the ones that you were talking about, the two dark cars, which belong to Ryan Smith and Dane Liccardo. They have got the Fayed detailing on them. They actually don't look too bad. I actually like how the lines and stuff are done with those cars. They're not done too badly at all. And then the other cars, which are these two, Anthony Green and Rory Collins, or aka Rap to his friends, they have gone with the old Team Kiwi Racing retro livery, so bringing out the retro flavour a little bit early, and I like it.
Yeah, it's a good conversion. They've done just enough that you can look at it. I mean, the giveaway is the big TKR down the side of the door, but they've brought out just enough of the TKR livery so that you know what they're attributing, while still obviously leaving clear room for their current day sponsors. But yeah, really nice job, and grayscale liveries can be a little bit hit and miss at times, but you kind of you have to go grayscale and enjoy a proper Team Kiwi tribute. And it has all the right colours to it. And yeah, it's a really sharp, really clean livery. But the important bit is, the dark cars, which I don't think were necessarily I can't remember if they were black, but they've gone pure white with just a little bit of detailing. Thankfully, we can tell them apart because the front end's different on each of their cars. As opposed to Rory Collins and Anthony Green, who I think basically have an identical livery outside the numbers on the doors and the wing mirror colour. Yeah,
pretty much. Well, that's what we ask, isn't it? All we ask is for a little bit of colour on a part of the car that'll identify one identically liveried car from another. You should, all people should know that, Brody. All right, timing has started. So let's have a look here. We're going to keep an eye on Noah Tarup. He's just gone a little bit wide at the first turn, but stayed within bounds, so that's not too bad, and he'll press on. As we said, you've got to put a lap on the board, at least to start with something. So he's now coming around turn number 2, and on his way to ITM corner, which is turn number 3, which is a big sort of left-hander that goes right around an old roundabout that's there. And then this is the part of the track that everybody needs to start to get right. So if we go on board with Noah, let's have a look here. On the approach to the chicane, and he wants 1, 2, 3. And he did that pretty well and kept it pretty straight. So that's not a bad job there at all. Got through the chicane rather smartly. There was a car behind him that went sort of 2 wheels well and truly up in the air. I was trying to work out who that was. I think it might have been either Will Devonish or Darren Loughnane behind. There was definitely some wheels in the air. as he's now on to what's now turn number 9, which we'll refer to probably a lot tonight as ITM corner, with all the ITM signage that's there. There's actually a fair bit of margin for error. Noah's missing quite a couple of the apexes here as he's trying to wrestle. Oh, speaking of wrestle, the 26, the rear end got away from him there at the final corner, and that will have hurt him trying to get on the power on the drag up to the start-finish line. And his lap time across the line is a 22.2, so it's not too bad. It's enough to put him to the top of the pile for a few seconds, because I still fear there's probably a few drivers that are definitely going to beat that time in the next few seconds.
Yeah, we've got Wayne Walker, Anchor, Stemmer coming to the line now. Walker's going to be the first one across the line, and he is going to set... Not a lap at all, actually, so that would have been a track cut. Kurt Stenberg immediately nearly a second to the good on Noah Turris. That's a 21.3. And
Steve Burko got a track violation as well, so he definitely will need to go again. And I think you've got to press on no matter what happens here. Even if you've done a bad lap, you don't want to pull over and give the tyres up and go back to the lane, because it'll put you out of sequence. Most drivers will do a pair of laps on a set of tyres, and then they'll come back in, make some adjustments, put a new fresh set of boots on, and then go again. Stenberg nearly 2 tenths up on his time at Sector 1. There's the yellow flag here, as that's one of the cars that's just pulled over to the right there to exit back to the pits. And Stenberg now through turn 8. He's tucked in behind Walker here, as you said, Brody. He's just sort of needs to get a wriggle on here. He was probably the man that I was looking at the timing screens going, well, you know what, he's probably going to be up there again tonight. He's been in that sort of top 7 or 8 positions most of the season so far. And we do pick him up just ahead of Stenberg, and he's going to lay down a time here. As Stenberg's actually peeled off and gone back to the pits. So what's Wayne Walker got for us here? He goes P2. Oh, only 800ths of a second behind. So good second effort there.
Absolutely. The important thing to note for some of these guys, although I'm not saying the guys in the front aren't trying, but the important thing for these guys at the front, the only guys in the front is to make sure they get into the shootout. They don't need to do 10-10s in this session, and to be fair, some of them might be holding on for a bit of time because they don't want to reveal all their cards just yet. But really where the race is going to be for this session is going to be that back end of the top 10. So at the moment, we've now got a decent haul of times in to actually have a comparative point. 10th currently is, actually no, I was going to say it's Ben Hall. It's just been taken over by his mate. So Lockie Lock now sits in 10th. He's 1.3 off of, he's 1.3 off of pole. And the gaps back to him from, Tim Redmond is in front. You're looking at the gaps, probably early call, but it's only a short session. Probably someone the likes of Rory Collins or Anthony Green, probably the safe ones as time sit right now.
Yeah, I would say so. They're probably fairly safe in the mid-22. So I'd say if you're a 22.5, you're in with a good shout of getting into the shootout. The cut, you're definitely going to, if you do a 21, you'll be safe. I think that's probably the upshot there. And there's still a number of drivers. There's 25 here tonight, and there's still 9 that have not posted a time, and we are more than halfway through the session. This current series, the defending series champion, is one of them in Will Devenish. He has actually butchered both of his laps on the opening foray, and he's now on an out lap as well, keeping an eye on him, because we would expect him to be in the top 10. And others that probably deserve to be in the top 10 that probably struggling to just make it at the moment. So Brendan Ross is on a 23.7, and I'd say the likes of Brenton Foley would be trying to target a top 10, but he hasn't posted a time yet either.
No, so I've seen most of those cars out on track. They haven't set times yet, so they're out there currently trying to put laps in, but it would just be picking up track cuts and or catching the wall. I did see Tomo's already set a time. Actually, no, he hasn't actually, sorry. He's working on setting a time, but I saw him the last run through of the chicane taking quite a bit too much. Probably wasn't a cut, but it wasn't quick. He was at risk of rolling it, I think, at one point there. But yeah, that's where you get the back end of the session. It's only a short session, and for those that are just want to get time on the board at all, they're actually now working to the point of, look, I've got to push a little bit harder. I've got to try and buy something in here. Even if it's okay, I'm going to have time for 2 laps left. This lap is rumored to have to get back around. And that's sort of what creeps in those sort of mistakes as well. So those guys that have set laps early are in a good position. They are still at risk of having laps taken off them, especially if they're not on track now. Most guys are, they're on track at least to try and sort of backfill a time if they need to. but for those guys without a time set currently, yeah, it's starting to heap pressure on now.
Yeah, it certainly is. One of the drivers that we just noticed as well, who isn't in the server but was actually practicing pretty hardcore all week as Foley gets a track violation and has to go again, is Nathan Higginson. So he was pretty handy in practice and he's been doing a fair bit this week, and he ended up being booted out of the server with a runtime error. So he's going to start toward the back. So that's definitely not what he was after at the beginning of the night. He was definitely in a much better position than that. Just in behind Brenton Foley is Lewis Wedding. So he's substituting for Luke Rosella tonight. A mechanical failure with the pedals on his, I think the CSLs, has unfortunately rendered him out of action. So hopefully we'll see him back for actually a home race for Luke Rosella. The Bend Motorsport Park, of course, is the next track up on the calendar.
Yeah, so we're just ticking down now. Lewis, one of the drivers doing to set a time. I think Foley in front as well. Wedding would just be, well, he's pulled over to let He's pulled over to let Ben Hall through, who was on a lap, who's sprayed the walls. Luke Newing's actually done the same thing in the sister car, one of the Pixelated Elf Motorsport cars. But yeah, Wedding was just pulling over there. He's still got time to get back for a lap, and he's going to be one of the earliest guys to start the final laps. We've got just under a minute left now.
Yep.
And as things sit currently, drivers without a time on the board, Brenton Foley's coming to the line now, so he will set a time and goes to 12th. Then we've got Lewis Wedding, we've got Will Debonish, who's currently on his timed lap, and we've got Curtis Igmar, who's been for a track cut, or is on an out lap, so he's not got a time. Snipes has not left the pit lane, and same with Phil Boak.
Yeah, I didn't expect Phil Boak to leave the lane, if I'm being honest. He was late into the session, and Snipes was very similar in there as well. So I think that's probably a smart move for the pair of them, just to start at the back. And that'll be interesting to see what strategy they pull, because Snipes will have some knowledge from the Development Series race a couple of weeks ago. I was on a couple of weeks, last week actually, and he will definitely be interesting to watch from the back of the grid. Pointed out to us in commentary position as well.
Yep.
Well, it was fourth. It's now fifth for Darren Loughnane.
Yeah.
So that's actually probably the standout performance of qualifying so far, I'd say.
Like that and with where we hadn't seen an idea of where Ricardo's pace was at. He's currently sitting third, which I'm not too surprised by. But again, we hadn't seen him doing any shootout, any qualifying simulations. We had no idea where his pace was going to be. But he's currently sitting third. There are a couple of guys who could beat him.
Devonish just went P4
behind him.
Devonish just went P4 as well, finally putting a lap together as well. So he's safe in the shootout. He'll be well and truly safe now. And
he'll be good. Darren's definitely be safe, although he's up again on his time. Tara's down on his lap, but he's probably looking... he's reachable, but I think he's probably safe. Looking outside, down to next car on track at the moment is Tim Redmond. He's currently in 9th. Just waiting for a second sector to see where he's sitting. Yeah,
so Tim Redmond, I think, probably just needs to keep going at the moment just to remain safe. He's only out by a 10th, but the one that we're interested in at the moment is Termo. He's got to set a lap here, otherwise he's going to be starting 23rd out of 26 cars tonight, with Wedding having bailed out of a lap, and Snipes and Boak not setting times, and Igmanis goes to 9th, so he puts Tim Redmond on the bubble. And are there any other cars that could upset Redmond here? So he needs to keep going, and he doesn't improve. The only one that could upset that apple cart is Steve Burko, but he has finished. So Burko is done. And then the only other one I can see is Brendan Ross. Has he got anything in? Is he still on a lap? He is still on a lap, so he got around at some point. And is... actually, no, he's not. The timing has just updated itself to say that it was. I was a bit worried because I thought I saw the timing and it gave us a Sector 1 split, and I thought, maybe he did get across the line. Unfortunately, he did not. So Redmond survives by the skin of his teeth at the expense of Rory Collins.
Yeah, so what that's going to mean... Yeah, that's going to shake things up. Now, I saw only one driver out there, at least at one point, on hards. I'm not sure if he finished qualifying on hards. I'm going to try and find the car.
Well, you're going to go back and have a look through all of that. We're going to get ready to go to the shootout in a few seconds. So you can see there, we have 10 drivers that will be in the shootout. So in the shootout order, it'll be Tim Redmond, Curtis Igmanis, Anthony Green, Ryan Smith, Noah Turra, Darren Loughnane, Will Devenish, Dane Liccardo, Wayne Walker, and Kurt Stenberg, believe this or not, will be the only Camaro in the top 10 shootout, and he will go out last.
I nine
Mustangs versus one Camaro in the top 10 shootout. Yay for parity.
Yeah, as I say, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of Supercars teams that are looking at that and going, "I wish we had that."
Yeah, wish we had that.
But yeah, because I did see it earlier, and I'm going to assume he's come back to the pit lane with the tyres he set his best lap on. Luke Newing in 12th is the only driver to have set his lap on hard tyres. So
that's an interesting point. Yes,
because it's doing a couple of things. He's out there on hard, so it's not showing his true pace compared to everyone else who's going out on soft. So he's not 12th on pace; he's somewhere above that. But he's the one that, at least at this stage, that's locked into running on the hards. The only other drivers that we can technically see start on hard at this point is NZ Snipes and Phil Boak by not having set a lap. And also, and I was going to make this point earlier as a consolation prize for Higo, because he hadn't set a time in qualifying, he gets free pick of the strategy. He's not bound to any sort of internal pressures of I must be quick in a shootout. I must boost the ego. I must run softs. He can run softs if he wants to start the race. He can run hards. He's got the sort of free time. I mean, everyone else has the free time, but he's actually one of a few drivers who's got the time to sit down and think and ponder through his options and maybe revisit an option with, and Higo's just correcting me actually. So what I've just said for the last 20 minutes is null and void. I was about
to say, I was letting you seeing how big a hole you could dig for yourself.
Yeah.
I came swooping in to correct you, and Higginson's beat me to it.
Thank you, Higo. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, well that was an interesting one then for still very few of my points remain intact. The only one that remains intact is that Newing is hiding his pace by being out there on hard tyres. But the rest of it, I'm entirely wrong there. So, it might be a lead into. Maybe in Newing's case, maybe he's only run the hards. Maybe he doesn't want to cloud his judgment. Maybe that's an inkling as where he's going strategy-wise. But at this point, I've talked out of my arse enough on this stuff that I should probably quit on my head.
Yes, I would say that's probably a wise decision, Rady. Okay, so not too far away from a shootout, be about another minute or two just to get everything into perspective. So the bit that I want to take a look at there, Rody, if we just get our results up from that particular session. So the top 10 actually covered by 1.4 seconds, so it was quite a fair old margin at the end of the day. Kurt Stenberg had 0.3 of a second on the field. But Rory Collins missed out by about 1/10.5. He said Luke Newing was in there. Brenton Foley made his way up to 15th at the end of the day, and he probably would be a bit disappointed with that. But there's, the ones that didn't set times, of course, Higginson, Wedding, Higginson because he was out of the server, Wedding because he went for a bit of a late couple of laps, didn't make it happen, and Snipes and Boak will start at the back. So we'll see how all that goes. Everything, it looks like it is actually in order for the shootout now.
Absolutely. So we're just waiting for the track to be flagged as green, and then we'll see the first car coming out on to the track.
That's right. So it'll be Tim Redmond who will be the first one out in the Beyond Racing Mustang. And I think we actually have him getting ready to leave the lane now. Yes, he is. So he's heading out to the lane, and the session has now officially gone green. So Tim Redmond, let's have a look at how does his season look so far, Rody? If we take a bit of a look just in general at the old championship points standings. I think he's been a bit up and down so far most of the season. He currently sits in 7th place. He's had 3 top 10 finishes, a 6th, a 10th and an 8th, and the other 2 finishes were a 13th and a 14th. So 7th in the points, just behind Lockie Lock at the moment and just ahead of Luke Rosella. So we'll take a look at the point standings overall when we get into the intermission between qualifying shootout and race number 1 this evening. But last year, where he was a bit more of a feature in the top sort of half a dozen quite regularly, hasn't sort of struggled to get going a little bit this year. But being in a shootout, this is the prime opportunity to arrest that little bit of a slide and really put yourself in a good spot to be out of all the carnage and all the silly business that's probably likely to happen at a street circuit where the safety car probability is high.
Absolutely, and if we use the same example as we were using in the Dev Series shootout, at least as amongst the drivers of the performance that Darren Lognan put on at Adelaide. Important thing I think here, we are talking about, you know, in theory the 10 best drivers we've got in ASR right now, but somebody is more than likely to pick up a track cut. Important to go out there, get a time on the board rather than it being a fast time, and you might pick up a few spots as a result.
That's right. So here we go. Tim Redmond on the clock. His time to get into the shootout, a 1 minute 22.380. So you always want to have a go at trying to better your lap, or getting as close to your lap as possible to get into the shootout. He's through turn 1, now down the chute towards the, I guess it's a slow to medium speed corner, turn 2. You've got to brake about the 150. It's a lot earlier than what you expect coming up to it. The car really doesn't want to stop at all for that particular corner, and this corner is an absolute bitch of a corner. It's got bumps, it's got everything in there. You've got to attack the corner. That's the problem. You've got to attack it because you need to keep the pace of the car up. You need to keep the time moving forward in the right direction. But the problem is there's a big ugly bump there, and if you attack it too much, you end up locking a brake and potentially you can run wide. So you've got to get that balancing act at turn 3 absolutely spot on. This is the critical corner. Got to keep your wheels in bounds. He's done a good job there, left plenty of margin. Drivers have been warned that if they do exceed the track limits there and they don't make an effort to keep their wheels inbounds, then they will get a track violation. And Redmond's slowing down here. I'm wondering, did he get has he been given a track violation at the chicane? I think he has.
I have a feeling the car is definitely, it's not slow, but it's definitely not trying to do a 10 out of 10 lap. I have a feeling that he's picked up a track cut through the chicane.
Yep, I think he has picked up a cut through the chicane, unfortunately, the first victim. But for him, I guess it was a case of nothing to lose, was it, Rody? Because he was the first man out, which means he's going to start no worse than 10th anyway. So not a bad decision to give it a bit of a go through the chicane. And if you improved, you improved. If you didn't, you didn't.
Exactly, yeah. And Tim's in that unique spot in a top 10 shootout where the worst he can start is where he qualified. So, yeah. And so, yeah.
Words. Words. Yes. That's enough.
Yes.
That's enough.
Yes. Moving on now to the first of the CRE Engineering Mustangs in this shootout with Curtis Igmanis, who didn't get into this shootout until very late in the session. Obviously, one of the guys out there trying to get laps in as the time ticked down. Was only able to get a timed lap in, I think, on the second last run, and might have improved slightly from there. But he lines up second and starts now for his shootout lap.
Right, so here he goes. So his time to get in was a 22.370. So he was only 100th faster than Tim Redmond to get in. Locks the brake going into turn number 1. So he just missed getting the right-hand side tyres down to the apex and onto the curbing. So a little bit wide, but now he's got to just try and pick up as much time as possible, because one of the hard hallmarks of a street circuit, Rody, is that when you lose time, it is very difficult to get it back, especially when you pinch a brake and you run off your optimal racing line. You're then forever chasing the time that you lost, which then tends to lead to mistakes. So he's got to get through here now, mistake-free. 1, 2, oh, wheels went up on the right-hand side, but that won't be a cut. He should be pressing on from there. I'd say that he got through there pretty cleanly. And no. The answer's no.
That was a cut.
No, he's gone too aggressive as well. Wow, wow, wow. What is going on here? There's a few drivers, I think that have, they've pushed the limits a little bit too hard. This is a big surprise. 2 for 2 at the moment. The chicane bites again.
I do remember guys in Dev Series discussing, and I know it's a feature on some tracks, so I can't remember if it's a feature on all tracks, but the track limits do get a little bit stricter, or perhaps a little bit more relaxed in some sessions over the others, like a little bit of a tolerance thing. The other thing I will say for drivers, if they're, like they've done enough practice laps now to know where they are and know that they're in a Gen 3 car, but if they're still relying on any muscle memory from 2 years ago, these cars are wider.
Yes, that's the big point, isn't it? Yes, they are a little bit wider.
So the center point is still the center point, but you kind of put yourself a little bit differently depending on where you're sitting in the car and or the center and all that. So that's potentially what's throwing people off as well. That or just seeing from the guys at the back end of the shootout, just, you know, worst they can do is start at the back of the top 10. So they might as well have a crack at it. But yeah, we'll say we keep going. If we pick up a few more cars with a track cut, then yeah, something's up. But yeah, so far 10th and 9th, they're going to start 10th and 9th.
I think a few drivers will now be going back to the replay and just trying to see how they got that so wrong. at that particular part of the track. So yes, at the moment, the chicane bites 2 for 2. It has knocked 2 drivers out. Now we're on to Anthony Green. So on debut in the series this year. So this is his 3rd round Supercars competition. His time to get in was a 22.279. So it was sort of very close on times at the back end of the top 10. And can he be the one to finally put a time on the board for somebody to chase? Looks pretty handy through the first 2 turns so far. Lights it up, bags it up on the exit of turn number 2. Charges off towards turn 3. Had a little bit of a lock brake there, but got it settled nicely. Got his left-hand side tyres up on the Sky City curbs, and that turned the car nicely. Now you've got to get this line right. We've been talking about getting the line right. Take it, take it. Has he done enough? What does he do? No, he's pulled over to the left-hand, to the right-hand side. He's gone as well, has he?
I think he has. I can see that one. It was the way the car picked up. It was I guarantee it was on that 3rd curb. There was it picked up. It picked him up on the first curb was pretty good. Second curb was pretty good, but it spat him off funny from the second curb. Spat him off to the left, and he was definitely I can't remember if we got the center line, but if we got the center line of the car was definitely the wrong side of the curb. So that would have probably been where he picked up his cut. So that's 3 cars now that are starting the race where they qualified, and no better.
Well, he's coming to the line, so I'm not sure if this is just if it is going to actually be a time or not. No, it isn't. So he's the only one that's come across the line so far after finishing. I guess has completed the lap, but has been unfortunately stung as well. Wowee, the circuit giveth and the circuit taketh away. And this is an interesting shootout. We've never had this before, Rody. We've never had the first 3 cars in a shootout just completely poo-poo their laps, and now it's over to Ryan Smith, the Sideways Esport dark driver with the light-coloured livery this round. The alternate livery starting to make an appearance this year. Now, what has car number 60 got in store? So for him, 1 minute 22.629 was the time that he had to get into the shootout, and that was virtually on 0 tank of fuel. He's locked a brake going into turn 1 as well. So all the mistakes are happening in the shootout. I didn't expect that the pressure would be on so hard for a lot of these drivers in the shootout this year. The first time in 2024 for the Supercars field in a shootout, and some of the drivers are new, but some of the veterans have got some ring rust they got to get rid of.
Yeah, it's possibly a combination of that. Like we know that the cars maybe aren't quite set up to run on or essentially first hot lap, although we'll see how he goes through the chicane here. Much more measured approach, and I think he's probably the first one through without a cut.
Did he? I saw the second part of the chicane and I got a bit worried. That was the bit for me. So he's pressing on with the lap, so that potentially is a good sign. And he might be the first one that got this right. Pressing on towards ITM corner, turn 9. Gets in there nicely. Doesn't need to use a little bit of run-off road on the exit there. Moves the car. It leaves a little bit of real estate there on the left-hand side. He probably could have moved the car over a little bit more. But it looks like he's pressing on hard with the lap. So I dare say we're going to get our first time on the board finally, coming to the line at the hands of Ryan Smith. Remember, it was a 22.2 to get in. It is a no, it's not. So he did get stung and was just playing possum with us. I did say I was a little bit worried that he did get stung in Sector 1. And now that I have a look at the timing, he it does look like he was done in Sector 1. So he has also unfortunately fallen a victim. I'm speechless. I'm speechless, Rody. I literally am speechless. This is the first time in a long time I don't know what to say.
Yeah, we've had similar instances, maybe not quite to this percentage, but it's like we've had a couple of guys set some laps and then a couple of guys in the mid pack throw some bloopers because they're having a big crack at it. And as I mentioned, an example of the Darren Logan at Adelaide last year. He's still yet to come up, and hopefully he's learnt a lesson from Adelaide last year. But yeah, it's 4 cars now that are starting where they qualified and no better, and now we've got Noah Toro up to have a crack at the chicane.
That's right. Now he's got it turned in nicely for turn 1 as well. He set his best lap time at 1 minute 22.200 on his first flying lap in qualifying, and he couldn't better it at all after that. He actually had 3 more bites at the cherry and butchered all 3 of them. So can he now be the first one to put a time on the board? We'll be halfway through the shootout once he completes the lap. And for goodness sake, he's just got to just back it off and take it quietly through the chicane. This is the critical moment. 1, 2, 3. Now, if that's a track cut through there, I don't know what is, because I saw 2 wheels inbounds at every step of the chicane there. So I got my fingers crossed that this is a good one. It looked like he didn't bite off more than he could chew. Shortcuts the part of the track like they did in real life back in the day. Leaves plenty of margin on the table there. Doesn't get too greedy on the inside at turn number 9. And this looks like it's very committed through the switchbacks, through the left and the right, and then the left and the right again. And now, big left turn, use all the road. Oh, the car wanted to move away from him as he clipped the apex at the last turn. Looks like a good lap. This one will come to the line. Remember, 22.2, and he does a 22.3. So not a bad time at all. And finally, a timer's on the board.
It's a rare thing to get halfway through a shootout to finally get 1 time on the board, but it's the way the track is going.
That's exactly right. So 22.3, just a tenth and a little bit, nearly 2 tenths away from his time that he did to get into the shootout. So not a bad job at all. When you go that close, that's a big tick. Speaking of big ticks, this is a big tick. This was the surprise packet of qualifying. Darren Loughnane with the Vortex Racing Team, car number 31. And first time in a shootout in Supercars competition. How's he going to fare? A little bit of a slide job on the Exeter one, but that's not too bad. He got nicely close to the wall there as well. Maximised all the road that he was possibly available to him.
Nice run there through the second corner as well. Good job managing that wheel spin on the exit. One of quite a few drivers, I imagine, that were using second there. You can run out of there in first, but you deal with a bit more wheel spin to do so. Nice run there actually through the roundabout as well. Good management of the bumps and keeping nice and close to the apexes where possible. The chicane's really going to be the giveaway though.
Yep, so he's
that
got
that looked clean. It didn't look fast. It looked clean.
It looked
maybe
clean.
Not by much.
He looked clean, but he got jolted sideways to the right pretty heavily at the third part of the chicane, almost to the point of hitting the wall. But yes, it does. If he's pressing on with it, does look like he got through. We've got a sector 2 time, so he has got through the chicane cleanly. 2 tenths down on Noah Turrup, and he did a 22.025 to get in the shootout. So he was the last of the drivers in the 22s that got into the shootout. What would we say the cutoff was? The cutoff was if you did a mid-22, you were probably going to be on the cusp, and actually turned out to be that 22.3 was the benchmark to get in the first place. So we're about 2 tenths away. 22.6 for Loughnane. Good conversion in the shootout, 3 tenths behind Turrup.
Exactly, and the important thing is he's got a lap on the board because there's still 4 drivers left to go, and we've already had 4 drivers not set a time yet, and there are a couple of firecrackers in that back 4 that potentially might put it all on the line.
Well, here's I wouldn't say it's a firecracker, but this is definitely one that we wanted to keep an eye on because he was dynamite and very, very handy in qualifying all throughout season 2023, but hasn't had the same success this year. Is this the circuit that finally he starts to vault his way up the order? Because he's had to fight and just to get some decent finishes this year in the series so far, and the 2023 champion is finally on the track for his first solo effort. He's got the track all to himself in 2024, and to get in, he was into the 21, so he was a 21.988. So I dare say if he can land a 22 flat or a 22.1, he'd probably be pretty happy with that performance.
Yeah. Based on his entry, he's not going to have to do too much from that. We recognise that, with where the car's at and everything, the shootout times are going to be a little bit slower than qualifying. The track might be quite as rubbered up, but obviously the session goes more rubber available, so he's had the advantage of, 6 cars putting down rubber at least through the first sector. Rubber's a little bit off the racing line coming out of the chicane, but at least coming into it, it's all right where he needs it. And pretty good run there, but he is 4 tenths off of Noah Turrup. Much more, very, very aggressive run actually. He got sprayed. Luckily sprayed the rear, which made it a little easier to catch rather than spraying the entire car, but still not fast. And a lot of curb there.
A lot of curb. That's borderline whether the stewards will look at that and decide whether that was was too aggressive, and whether he needs to, that lap time would be deleted. As I said, the warning was you need to make an effort to keep all tyres in bounds, and he was super aggressive there. He's super aggressive through here as well. Now this is costing him time, hand over fist. He was a 10th up on his time through Sector 2, but I fear he's probably lost a fair bit of that through the final sector, just with the locked brakes and car getting a little bit out of shape. We did say 22 flat would be the target. He's done a 23.3, so he's miles away from what he did to get into the shootout. But like the others, time on the board. He will at least be starting ahead of the other cars that didn't set a lap, but unfortunately for him, he's lost 2 spots at this stage in the process.
I've just noticed something as well, actually. Because I'm pretty sure the white compound is the soft tyre. Will's just set that up on a hard tyre.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
I don't know why, because unless people actually listen to what I say, which listen to never do that. But, yeah, you don't... Okay, something different.
Yes, you didn't need to do that. So I'm surprised at that, actually, but that could have been a sighter. We don't know. Yes, that is most unusual. Dane Liccardo's on his qualifying shootout lap here as well. And, well, it's been a while since we saw Dane Liccardo in a shootout, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. We're going back a while. I know Dan had an argument before about never having had a pole position in any race in ASR ever, which I do doubt. Not saying he's going to necessarily get one here, but that was a pretty good run through the chicane as well, which is what's going to matter for him.
Yeah, looks fairly clean through there, and getting into the chicane here. Oh no, that's going to be trouble. That's going to be trouble. That's too aggressive, and I dare say that will be that'll be in trouble. So I think the word has gone out there that that lap is going to be deleted. So he will be in a bit of trouble there, and the stewards have been right on top of that, and that unfortunately will mean he will be out of commission here. So he'll come to the line, he'll probably set a lap time, but the track limits unfortunately will render that lap null and void, even though it is second and he has blown the engine at the rear there, so he knows that the gig is up. He knows that the lap time unfortunately has been revoked, and he was too wide and too aggressive at turn number 8.
I mean, at a small consolation though, it's not quite what the time he used and the position he used to get in, but he's going to start from what's it going to be?
It'll be classed as 10th because actually it might be classed as 10th. It'll be classed, I think, as at the front of the drivers, because
front of the cuts, which is currently 6th from memory. We've just seen the next car go through, which is Wayne Walker.
Yes, the second last driver to post or have an attempt here at a shootout lap. Half the field so far has not managed to set a time. 4 from track cuts and 1 from having a lap time deleted. And this is the last of the Mustangs. We did say there was 9 of them against Kurt Stenberg's Camaro. So they've all sort of, I wouldn't say they've all failed just yet. Walker's probably the one that I would expect to give Stenny probably the best run for his money. And if you look at the times like that against Noah Tara's current best time, .001 is the difference at the Sector 1 split. So absolutely nothing in it. Good clean run through the chicane for the 217. Now on to turn number 8. Got to keep it in bounds. That's the difficult part. He's done that part of the equation. So good job for him. Shortest possible run down towards turn number 9 now. Now he's a 10th to the good on Tara. So he's had a really nice run through the chicane and now through the difficult part of the track, which is all these lefts and rights and setting them up for the next corner. Track sacrifice through turn 12 to set yourself up for the best run through 13 and get yourself on the power really early and drive to the line. Looks like a really decent lap. Getting into the shootout, it was a 21.2. He's done a 21.9. He actually finds 4.5 tenths overall, so picked up as the lap got better. Provisionally on the front on pole, definitely on the front row.
Absolutely, that was a very nice lap as well. It's going to take some work from Kurt to beat that. He was, I think, still. Actually, no. I don't think he was quicker. No, I think he was a little quicker in the qualifying session itself. But still, we recognise that. There is a bit of pace drop off, and importantly, he's only got 1 lap to run. It's not like qualifying where he could afford to experiment with that back chicane. He's going to have one run at it. The question is he going to push at 10 tenths, but more importantly, is he going to need to? Does he feel he's got another buffer that he can perhaps be a bit more conservative with the chicane than he might otherwise be and still come out on top?
Well, we'll soon find out. So, on to the last corner. Last car in the shootout. The only Camaro in the shootout. And he did the best job in qualifying with a 20.898. Can he do the best job in the shootout and take the pole? He's made a habit of these in ASR over the years. And he gets turn one absolutely spot on. Uses all the road as well. Looks like a good lap. Even only at turn one, Roadie, it looks like a good start.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll get a timing set coming through in a few corners. But as for now, that was a very smooth run. No wheel spin, no misbehavior from the rear of the car at all there through turn two. Very nice run through three as well. A little bit wide, a little bit of a slide, but still 2.5 tenths to the good.
Yep, and on top, and importantly as well, he's got that time in his pocket, so he might go aggressive through the chicane. He actually did a pretty good job through the chicane. He could afford to actually give himself a little bit of a margin for error there and still come out the other side probably with an advantage. Oh, big slide job. Just manages to keep the front right in bounds there. Heading down now towards ITM corner. Lost a little bit of time, I think, as a result of that. And now through the narrow part of the circuit here and to the left, move the car left, take the right-hand turn, get out to the left, track sacrifice, move to the right here, set the car up for the next corner, which goes to the left, and now up the hill toward the line under the Paint Doctor Bridge. This should be the pole time. It looked pretty handy, and it's going to probably be into the 21s, is it? Yes, it's a 21.7. He's about a tenth and a half to the good, and showing them how it's done there, and takes the pole position, and on top of that is the fastest qualifier for tonight. So very nice job for Kurt Stenberg there, as he has is the fifth driver out of 10. I can't believe I'm still saying that. Out of 10 to be able to post a time in the shootout there. So 5 drivers came and they couldn't make it happen, and then 5 drivers managed to post a time.
Yeah, so that's it's a little bit of a shake-up in the order. That said, well, yeah, most of the guys that didn't extend the time are going to be starting where they qualified to get into the shed. The only exception to that will be Dan Liccardo, who is going to be at the front of that cube, is going to be a little bit back on where he wants to be. The focus now comes to the race, and for I suppose a few guys, a bit of practice in the warm-up session. You guys will be practicing race starts, and that's an important one to practice here as well, because I think Philippine might be the only other track we've been to in recent years that has a tighter grid than Hamilton. So you're very much relying on not only the car in front of you to get away cleanly, but the car in front of them to get away cleanly as well. And I think a lot of guys will be focusing on getting a good start, especially with the run down at turn one.
Yeah, no, I agree. A few drivers will definitely be trying to focus on that. It's the shortest run, I think, to turn one of the year too, Rody. Like even shorter than Barbagallo to turn one as well. There's like hardly any wiggle room. So we did see in the development series round a little bit, actually a week ago now, that there is plenty of opportunities for things to go wrong. That's the disappointing part.
Yeah, the consolation is, at least with that, is if you do need to wash it wide, there is plenty of room off on the exit of turn one, which guys were using in Dev Series. But I was just thinking through, it's one of those interesting positions you don't get too many in the motorsport, one of those weird positions where the cars at the back of the field are the fastest entering a corner because they've had the biggest, like you get the biggest run up anyway, but generally speeds are pretty well stabilized. Like the bend's probably the other end of the example. That's where we're going next. But the bend, you're all kind of more or less, you're already up to sort of 5th gear. You're doing about the same speed. The differences in speed on a percentage basis, at least, aren't too high. You're doing like 240 versus 220 front to back of the grid. If you're at the front of the grid, you get up to maybe 3rd gear before you hit the corner. To the back of the grid, especially in a 30-car grid, closer to 4th, maybe even touching 5th before you get down to turn 1. So you're coming in a lot faster than cars in front, which is kind of what leads into some of that stuff. It's that big Constantini, and you get that at any racetrack, especially as I mentioned. Any track, you get that difference in speed. But this is one of the ones where it's more pronounced. So that's what causes some issues. And I think from memory of we did run 3 races last week. Of the 3 races we ran, no, 3, 2. 2 was 2. Yeah, okay. I had in my head at least 2, but for some reason I managed to manufacture a third. Of the 2 races, one of the guys in here, one of the guys who was in the shootout, Darren Mognan, had a wonderful predicament where twice, once in both races on the first lap, he was involved in a buffle with somebody behind him who carried a bit more speed into him into the corner than he did, and as a result made contact with his rear bumper and had him off the track. But it was one of those things where it's not like, front of the pack is safe, because I think the first one he got done, he's qualified in the top 10. I think he was in that shootout. Second one, partially because out of the first race, he ended up down the back, and he was like, I think started like 23rd or something. Still found somebody who managed to find his rear bumper at turn 1. So definitely, it's more so than anything else, it's one of those tracks where nowhere is safe. Through the narrowness of the track, through the concertina effect at 1, through the bumps as well. All it takes you to have a slight wobble somewhere and the guy behind you to be a bit too close to you, he'll get into you and your wobble turns into a spin, you across the track, and the track around here, if someone's sideways across the track, you've got maybe one line on the outside of them if they're parked up against a wall. If in the middle of the track though, it's going to kind of be like, what's his face? George Russell at the last lap of Albert Park, where he was essentially blocking the entire track. He wasn't, but in practice, the racing, where he was parked relative to the racing line, which is why he was so adamant that everybody knows that, hey, I'm parked here, because the speed they go through there, especially at the blind corner before that, he was very much in a bad position there. But yeah, same sort of thing there. There was only really a car's width something on the outside of him, technically a car's width on the inside, but the speeds are going an F1 car, even in a normal yellow flag zone, tend usually, bad spot. Same thing here. You can very easily block off half of the racing line to be parked in an awkward spot. So I hope the expectation is for these drivers, as I mentioned, for the Dev Series guys 2 years ago, not so much last week, but definitely 2 years ago. The expectation that the safety car is easy to trigger and you don't want a safety car. Dev Series guys learned that. We spent, I think, half of our first race on the safety car. Did more laps than some of the drivers did all night. And most of the guys in Supercars know this, but you don't win on lap 1, you don't win on turn 1. You've got to make it to the end of the race, you're going to make it to the last corner, the last lap before you can have any hope of winning a race. You're not winning it in the first corner.
No, that's exactly right. And that's the bit I think a few drivers have sort of struggled a little bit with as well. It's just, getting it through their heads that, yes, you don't win it on the first lap. It's not win it or bin it at the beginning of a race. It is win it or bin it sort of at the back end of the race. I did say we would have a bit of a look at the point standings and things, but what we might actually do is because we haven't got that long to go, we will actually do that in between race 1 and race 2 now. So a few things unfortunately have just divided a little bit of attention, so I do apologise. There's a few drivers running around and some grid positions to be set, so we've now got an official grid positions all set. Everything is ready to go for the first race of the night. So 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here, and we are just about set to go ahead. Now, just doing the math here as well, Rody, if we just have a bit of a rough look at how long it takes to do a lap around here, we did say on average, even if we just sort of take it in a race trim at 1 minute and 25 seconds, so that's 85 seconds with a 31 lap sort of distance. We're sort of looking at roughly around, including pit stops, somewhere around about the 45 to 46 minute mark just to complete the racing tonight. So it's going to go on for a little bit, and then we're going to pretty much roll straight into race number 2 almost immediately afterwards. As we
it's going to be
clock at 0.
Yeah, there's going to be enough time in between for drivers to get up and do what you need to do between races. And going to a leg stretch is probably going to be in order, especially after doing 31 laps around this place. There's going to be a little bit of pedal jogging, definitely a lot of wheel work. It's something actually I noted, and I was going to mention it during in casual conversation during the week, but I never really got the chance to. The chicane can do many things to you. It can ruin a lap and put you on a wall. One thing that some drivers are going to run into, though, and I think most of the guys in supercars have actually got to the point where they've got a more substantial setup than what I've got. My issue through the chicane was less picking up track cuts. It was more the fact that the left, right, left force feedback through my wheel was reminding my wheel clamps that they're not as strong as I think they are. And I had a situation, I think, in both races where I went to turn and the wheel base yawed along with the wheel turning, which was great because it meant it was half coming off the desk. So I hope that everybody's got I think most of the guys in supercars have either got a proper rig or at least got a more substantial way of mounting their wheels. But if we find somebody pulled over halfway through the race, it's entirely possible that their wheel is in their lap. So, yeah, we are not far now for getting started. Oh no, that was just here goes me. I was having a look at the notes that we were given earlier. But there are a few strategies to play, which we'll mention as we start to build into this race. But something to consider, and it was why I was interested in the hard stuff earlier, it is theoretically possible to no stop on hards if the race plays out the right way. Yes. In practice, I don't think too many people are going to try that unless you're buried right down the back and you want to cross fingers for a safety car.
No, that's right. We will have a look at those strategy options because a few of them are rather unique. Let's put it that way. I've got no shortage of 4 of them on my lap at the moment, just in front of me. So here we go. First 100-kilometre race of the year. Rody, let's have a look at the grid because somebody has missed it.
Absolutely, and we'll get to that in a second. But Kurt Stenberg starting off of pole position. I think that keeps the record going outside of maybe Luke Rosella pinching them off him this year, but obviously he's not here tonight. Starting second is Wayne Walker, the first of the Wayne's World Motorsports Mustangs, the only one to make the top 10 tonight. Third is Noah Turro, the first of the CRE cars, as he was getting into the shootout. He's come out of the shootout as well, in third position for race number 1. Fourth is Darren Lodman, the first of the Vortex Racing Team cars, and a very good performance for somebody who was here last week in Super 2. Fifth is Will Devonish, very much more sort of where we like to see him, not quite as high as we like to see him, but doing pretty good as he's adapting to the Mustangs this year. Sixth is Dane Liccardo, good results for him as well. Would have liked to be a little bit higher, would have liked to set a time that was legal, but he'll work on that during the race. Seventh is Ryan Smith, and good to see actually both the SES Dark cars in the top 7. I think that's the highest we've seen them, and lines up pretty well with their aspirations to try and get the Teams Championship this year. Eighth is Anthony Green, so that's 3 SES cars in a row. That's the lead SES light car, running the black livery. Ninth is Kodes Egmanis, the second of the CRE Mustangs, and 10th is Tim Redmond, the first of the Kiwis on the grid, and the only one to make the top 10 shootout tonight. 11th is Rory Collins, who just missed out on the shootout by virtue of Chermack popping in at the last second. 12th is Luke Newing, who's filling in for Lockie Burke tonight in the number 2 pixelated L4 Sport car. That'll be some good team points for them. 13th is Lockie Lock, the second of the Amped Racing Plus CRE cars. He's had a pretty good run as well. 14th is Steve Burko, a bit of a quiet achievement there for Burko, but good to see him up. Another one who benefited from running Dev Series here last week. 15th is Brendan Foley, a little bit off where we like to see him, but perhaps a lack of practice available for him for racing this week. 16th is Cam Rutledge, pretty good results for Cam, maybe a little bit back from where he wanted to be, but not too bad overall. 17th is Ben Hall, looking pretty good out there in the monster truck number 22 Mustang. 18th is Luke Speck filling in for Bailey Hall, the second of the Vortex Racing Team cars. He's got a bit of work to do, but he was here last week as well. 19th is Daniel Cox from Sierra Anson Motorsport, the second of those 2 cars. 20th is Alex Kiddis, a bit of work for him to do to get up towards the front. 21st is Brendan Ross, bit of work for him as well in the VWT Pixel Supersports Camaro. 22nd is Steve Roach from Renshaw PBF Black Stores. 23rd is Lewis Wedding filling in again for Luke Roselle, who's the second Pixel Supersports pink car. 24th is NZ Snipes, bit of work to do from the back of the grid for Snipes. Phil Boak has missed the start and he's in the pit lane right now, and Nathan Higginson starts off the back after being kicked from qualifying. He's got a bit of work to do, but he's had the most time to prepare of anyone.
That's exactly right. So field is nearly set. 26 cars here this evening. Great turnout as always. Big thank you to all the drivers for giving up their time to come and race here in ASR Supercars. And it's time for race number 6 of the championship in 2024. We've got eyes on the pole sitter. Can he convert from the pole? The answer is no, not really. He actually gets a lot of wheel spin and actually coughs up the early going to Walker, but because he's on the inside, he manages to hold pole going through turn number 1. So So a little bit of a bad start, but by virtue of being on having the high ground to defend, he's able to defend from the Wayne's World Motorsport Mustang all the way down to turn number 2. Now bags it up on the exit of turn number 2, but now that's going to give ground to Walker, who goes through to the lead. So it didn't last long. It only lasted 2 corners, and a bit of a mistake there from Stenberg exiting turn 2. Now onto the chicane.
Absolutely, yeah, a lot of pressure from Walker in those early couple of corners there to set him up where he wanted him to be. Good run for the lead guys through the... I say good run, let it very sideways for Walker, but he's been saved by Noah Turra's presence, who's just put a dive on Kurt Stenberg. Kurt Stenberg didn't have a chance of going into anything with Wayne Walker with Noah Turra right in his mirrors, and he's now got through as well. So a bit of a slow start for Kurt Stenberg, but as I said earlier, he won't win the race on lap 1 anyway.
No, that's right. So Turra now down to P2, up to P2, and Darren Loughlin's got his hands full at the moment with Will Devonish back there 4th and 5th on the road. So actually that's now been conceded because Anthony Green, I think it is, has just gone through there into 5th place on Devonish, and then there's this little battle starting to unfold. Liccardo and Smith giving Igmanis a hard time. There was a bit of contact on the approach to turn number 4, 5 and 6 and 7 chicane, and I did see, I think Liccardo may have actually sort of snagged the wall and then inadvertently got into the side of the number 51 of Igmanis on the previous lap. Oh, and there goes Burko, back a shot. So he's gone for has he been escorted, or did he actually just do that on his own?
I have a feeling he was escorted because I can see Ben Hall having a redress.
All right, so let's have a look. Yeah, it looks like there is a redress happening there. So Paint Doctor replay for the first time tonight. Let's have a look at what happened to Steve Burko. You called it, Rody. You said that he was escorted, and he was escorted in a big way. And to quote the famous remark from Mark Scaife, and the one that I used last week in Development Series, hit up the arse like you would not believe.
Yeah, that's fair enough, and good on Ben for getting straight onto that and setting up a redress there with minimal loss, time loss for the both of them. The interesting bit with those battles we were looking at earlier, as Darren Loughlin's also got through on Kurt Stenberg, is to note where the drivers are at on tyres. So the top 3, and probably not a surprise at the start of the race, are on soft tyres right now. The first of the hard tyre runners is Kurt Stenberg.
Before you go too far, speaking of tyres, I'm not sure what Luke Newing's doing in the pits this early. He's on the yellow marked tyre, which is the hard, looking for his pit bay. He's got a puncture. That's why he's in the pits. He's got a puncture. He had a big slide there with a lock-up, so that'll be why he's coming early. He's actually now gone a lap down, so not a good start for him in Zach Brown's number 2 for Pixel Ated Elf Autosport.
Yes, he'll be relying on a safety car to bring him back into the race. But yeah, looking at that battle frame, we've got so lead car on hards at the moment is Kurt Stenberg. Second is actually Anthony Green, so he's gone through Will Devonish on pace, not on a tyre advantage. And then up behind him is then Curtis Igmanis, who's the next to the soft runners. Will's next on hards, and then back to that battle train we've seen before. Dane Liccardo is out there on hards. Tim Redmond is on, I believe...
We'll get a read on it in a minute.
Yes, the colour compound's throwing me off. He's out there on the softs, and Ryan Smith's the other one of the top 10 on the hards as well.
Yes, that's right. So there's a bit of a mixture in the top 10 already, as I can just see Igmanis going for a dive here just off screen, and he gets that move done on Anthony Green, and his teammate's going to look to try and follow him here. There goes Igmanis on the soft. He did say Devonish is on the hards, and he's now just gone past Green as well. So a little bit of moving and shaking in the top 10 as it stands at the moment. And then there's this next train, which is being led by Rory Collins in the 843, and right behind him Luke Speck. Then behind Speck you have NZ Snipes, who's come through the field. Now, did Snipes start on the hard, or did he start on the soft here, Rody?
He's on the soft tire currently, and So he started on the soft, so we should explain the charge. That was a lot of wheel to wheel.
Yeah, definitely.
Ryan Smith.
Smith in the middle of the track, and a big collision there as well. And somehow we stay safety car free, but there's a big amount of damage on the Rory Collins machine there. That car has got a puncture. It's got a lot of suspension damage, I think, as well. And there was a big lock-up going into turn number 2 there. Yeah, he's got a puncture. He's going to have to pit, and that's going to take him out of the running. There's more carnage going on back in the pack there as well. Where was Lockie Lock? Where's Lockie Lock in all of that?
Happened, but he's just straight lined the roundabout and essentially just
And
skewered Brendan Ross.
Yeah, Brendan Ross was caught out in that one as well. So there he goes, and that has triggered the safety car. So we will have a look at some things on the replay in a minute, but this is going to probably trigger a flurry of activity in the pit lane. So we'll need to keep an eye out for this. So what does Wayne Walker do? He's on the soft tyre. Is he going to go around or is he stop? I think that's a bad decision. He's gone around. Everybody else behind him is going to take the bait. Stenberg will stay out in a hard. Anyone that's on a hard tyre will stay out. But if you're on a soft, you've got to get in and get a different tyre on, I think. Otherwise, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And I think Walker might have just realised the mistake.
All right, there's a monumental dive. I was just having to go back and have a look at it.
We will go back and have a look at that on the replay in just a few seconds. We are waiting just for the broadcast cameras to catch up there and see what's going on, and we definitely will be on to that in a heartbeat. So yes, here we go. We do have our Paint Doctor replay ready to go, and I want you to focus here. So Brendan Ross on the right, and then Lockie Lock on the left. So this is what happened here. So I'm just not sure what happened there, and then Lock just went to cut the chicane, and then just unsighted, completely and utterly unsighted. And I don't know if Lock was. I don't know what happened to him.
I'll have to go back and have a look, because I can't remember if Lock was involved in any of the early kerfuffle, but all I know that is what happened for Lock is he touched the brake pedal coming into.
If you look at that there, he's at a lockup, I think, and there's no cars nowhere near him, and he's just had a lockup and gone straight through. I think just to avoid causing, running up somebody's bum at the actual turn 3, and unfortunately he ended up taking out Brendan Ross. So he hit the brake pedal, and then unfortunately didn't get off the brake pedal to allow the front of the car to bite and to turn, and then unfortunately has collected Brendan Ross. So wow.
Yeah. That one's a confusing one, because I just went back to have a look. He wasn't involved in the early kerfuffle that we spotted before the safety car, which is odd because the way that...
and he's just had a moment through the chicane too. Sorry, Rhodey. He's. I'm not sure if that he's had a big moment there. And I don't know whether he got tagged going through the chicane there or not. That one is a most unusual situation. So he's in a bit of a world of hurt here, I think, at the moment, Brendan Ross. I'm just having a bit of a look to see what happened, and no, he actually did that all on his own.
Yeah, that was all by himself.
That was all by himself. Yeah, the angle that I was looking at didn't sort of didn't do it justice as to where he was relative to Tim Redmond.
But yeah, the one I was trying to make with Lock was he touched the brake pedal and it locked up the entire front axle. So it wasn't like it locked up a tyre. The possibility was up over a bump at completely the wrong time to lock the entire front axle, and then he hasn't maybe had the presence of mind to try and get off it. He's had the presence of mind of, I'm in a bad spot, I need to stop. I'm already fully on the brake pedal, not realising that he's locked the entire front axle, and so he's only getting half the braking pressure, because most of your braking pressure is in the front axle. So he's effectively trying to work with like a third of the braking pressure that a supercar normally gets to work with, which would be why he's been on the brake pedal the entire time through the roundabout and still ended up clearing out Rossi. And he's just got in the chat, and I do remember him mentioning during the week that he was getting into the pedals to do a bit of work on them. It's possible that the work he's done hasn't quite worked to the strength that he thought it had, and so when he's going to hit the brake pedal there, it's not so much being an issue with the car, but an issue with the actual sim ring.
Yeah, that's right. So he's the only retirement as it sits right now. So Luke Newing and Luke Speck have both gone a lap down this whole entire process, and we find ourselves in a bit of a mixed up, muddled up situation here, because some drivers stopped, and probably the ones that have stopped, I think, have made a pretty smart call to get in, and if they were on softs, get them off and put hards on, or if they were on a set of hard tyres, they probably needed to stay out rather than come in and get a soft tyre. But all these different sort of strategies are going to come into play in the next few moments. Roddy, who's the big beneficiaries out of this, I think, at the moment, with this whole move up and shake up? We saw NZ Snipes coming through the field, and he's actually up to 8, so for me he's probably one of the ones I think that has probably benefited from going on to the soft tyre strat, and I believe he still might be on the soft tyre.
Yes, he is. Yeah, so Snipes is the biggest positional mover, having come from the back of the grid. Brendan Foley in front of him has picked up 8 spots as well by virtue of soft tyre running in the early running and also staying clear of any accidents. Behind him, Cam Rutley's picked 7 spots, same sort of thing. He's been out there on the softs as well, so just putting his car in the right spot. Alex Kiddis in 10th, picked up 10 spots, same thing, he's out there on the softs. The best improved hard run at the moment is Steve Warwick starting at the back of the grid as well. So that's less been purely through pace, or probably definitely a bit of pace into that as well, but definitely through staying out of trouble. He's in a good spot now on the hard tyres to be able to defend against some of the soft car runners behind him. First one of those has actually been Darren Lockton. He's also out there on the hards, so he's, I think,
He's been through the lane, yeah. So Warwick, I think, has stayed out, and Lockton, I think, is one of the early cars that came into the lane. So the likes of Redmond, I'm pretty sure, were in the lane. Pretty much everybody that was behind Wayne Walker on track, aside from Kurt Stenberg, came in. So Walker was the leader, and then you had actually, who was the next ones that were behind them at the beginning there? I think it was the likes of Green, sort of lost out. He's fallen down the field. And I think it was Lockman. Yeah, Darren Lockman, I think, is probably the first one.
One car that definitely will have been actually, so I can't find him anymore. Noah Tara.
Yeah, so Noah Tara, yes, he did. Because he
was second or third at one point.
He's 19th.
So he's definitely been through that. He's been through the lane, and I don't know, maybe he had damage that he's left on or something.
I'm not sure.
Be that far down the order.
But he's 19th, and he was about third on the road. Darren Lockman, I'm pretty sure, was about like second or third or fourth, or wherever he happened to be on the road. And he's come out in 12th, so he's in a fairly handy position at the moment. And Noah Tara a bit of a spot of bother. Looks like we're going back to green flag running. The word had gone out that the race control, that the leader needed to get control of the field at ITM corner in preparation for the restart, and Wayne Walker's done a nice job of that. Here we go, single file restart. Higginson's a big beneficiary in this as well. Walker's gone. Walker got the green flag, and did he go a little bit too early, or what happened there?
I don't know, because the green flag is given when the safety car is parked up, and the safety car was still transiting the lane at the time that Walker had jumped. So
yep.
Potentially went a bit early, but that's something we probably can't administer at this point of the race anyway.
We can't determine. It's not that we can't administer, we can't determine. Yes.
Exactly, we can't determine that as of right now. So, what we're seeing is Walker's got a pretty big jump off of Kurt Stenberg. Next behind Kurt Stenberg is Egmanis, and there's a big gap actually back from Egmanis as well, back to Anthony Green, and probably the soft versus the hard tyre run in the early going, but also. Definitely at this point, the guys out there on softs have to get maximum pace out of their tyre. The guys that are on hards, even if they're planning a stop at some point, they're probably going to try and manage a bit of fuel to try and make these tyres last as long as possible.
Yeah, that's right. So they are definitely going along and trying to get as many of the as much use out of these tyres as they possibly can. I think between now and when the safety car, when the next time potentially a safety car was going on. Now, Rody, what about, are we looking up and down the field? So what other penalties are there that potentially need to be looked at? Did anybody else, apart from Walker, get a bit of a slap on the wrist?
No, it was just Walker. So, I think everyone else was where they need to be. It might just be that he was too far forward, but again, that's something we'll have to look at later. The important thing we're seeing, though, obviously Walker's clearing out, and Egmanis had actually got through on Stenberg through the back.
That's reversed.
But that's just been reversed down the straight. So definitely the tyre advantage going Egmanis' way, but he hasn't quite had the pace of his teammate in the last year and a bit. Maybe he hasn't quite had the pace where he'd like to be, but at this point, even if it's a bit artificial by virtue of the tyre advantage, he's the first time in quite a while to be racing quite right behind the grid, and I think. Even if it's just, if it's just a bit of a veil of where things are actually at, I think he's enjoying being up there.
Yeah, I think so too. Dan Liccardo will be enjoying being in 5th place there as well. He's just pursuing his stablemate Anthony Green at the moment. They bounced through the chicane for the 9th time. I'll say bounce, they probably bounced through 9 times now. They've probably bounced about 4 or 5 because of the safety car intervention. And looks like Will Devonish is getting ready to make a move here, potentially on NZ Snipes. I'd say this is going to come at turn, I was about to say, I thought it might have come at turn 9 at ITM corner, but get a good run off of turn 8. Couldn't do anything with it, but he's on the hard tyre and Snipes is still on the soft, so Snipes got some pretty good purchase out of turn number 8 and managed to keep going. And Brenton Foley's in this as well, so he's moved up to 8th place out of all of the moving and shaking that's gone on. So he was a big, I think he was say he was 15th or something is where he qualified, I think.
Something like that, yeah, 15th, yeah. So he's a big improvement. He's very actually going to move on Will as well.
Yeah,
he's
here
one
he
of the other
comes.
guys out there on the soft, so he's got the advantage. Oh, actually, deep as well. So that's 2 spots for Will.
There'll be one
for Foley in that.
Yeah, a spot for Will and a spot for Foley as well.
Yep.
And, yeah, Foley looking pretty racy here as well. Oh, safety car right at the opportune time. Another one. So yellow flags are out. Safety car boards and flags.
One.
Yep, and as they're going through turn number 2 there, we're going to go hunting. And yeah, there was, there's Daniel Cox in the lane and a few other drivers out of all of this. And we're just trying to work out what trigger of that one was. And I'm not sure if that was, it must have been for Ben Hall down the escape road all by himself at turn number 1. But there were a couple of other cars that were in pit lane as well. So Newing was in and is retired, and Daniel Cox was in the lane, I think, when the safety car was called. I'm just trying to see whether he actually came into the lane because he was involved in something, but I don't think he was.
I don't think the timing line's on the list. The only other car who had something happen, which I went back and checked, was Newing. He didn't actually retire from the lane. He'd actually spun it out of the roundabout, but there was nobody near him on track, so he wouldn't have been a contributing factor to that safety car. But yeah, second safety car at the 3rd distance mark, and the lane is busy yet again.
Yep, the lane certainly is busy again. Foley leading a queue of cars in, and then actually a few other drivers going through. So Redmond goes through, Lognan goes through, so too Tara, he stopped under the safety car as well. And I think you've got Brendan Ross is in the background there, he's going through as well. So this will shake the order up. Now, what happened to Wayne Walker? Has he stopped again, or has he gone around again? No, he's gone around again. Now, did we pick up that he's on the soft tyre? Because
he is on the soft tyre, yes.
Yeah, so the soft tyre is Mr. Trick here. I think, I don't know what the strat call is, whether he's trying to extend the life of the softs now with these safety cars to get to a crossover point where he can get onto another soft tyre or onto a hard tyre that goes from there. But that's a bit of an interesting sort of a decision. Stenberg on the hard tyre, I think, he's made that call. He's going to get as much life out of the hard tyres as he can. So too is Green, as Brent Foley gets a penalty for pit lane speeding. So all that hard work we were talking about Foley having done has just unfortunately become unglued. And he's resumed in 15th, and he will do another pass through pit lane when the green flag goes back out again. So actually, let's have a look at, while we're under the control of the ASR safety car, we will have a look at our Pallet Control Solutions race facts, which give you the overview of what's happening here. So 3.3 Ks and 31 laps. So we do 100 kilometres in each of the 2 races tonight. Now the pit stops, as everything in ASR, are optional, and the mixture of compounds that are in play tonight, both the hard and the soft. And well, we've been talking about it already. The footnote there. How many pit stops? You know, what is your strategy? How do you slice and dice this? Because the safety car probability was very, very high coming into tonight. That has been proven to be correct. I think we're almost at 100% safety car probability at this circuit, and that's unfortunately means you've got to have you've got to have a plan A, a plan B. If you're Ferrari, you have a plan X. It goes from A to B to C, and then just keeps going and going and going. So most of the strategy calls. Oh, Foley, no! He's made a huge mistake under safety car. He's absolutely drilled the back of NZ Snipes, not paying attention at the safety car under safety car condition, and that is it's a cardinal sin. You cannot hit the car in front of you under safety car condition. He's redressed the spot, but unfortunately it means that other cars have gone through, and now they need to stay in queue. They cannot go past the cars that are around them. So Ryan Smith has gone up into 18th place. So he was the next one behind them in the train. So he actually takes those spots. That unfortunately is the way that it is, but yeah, that's going to be frowned upon by the officials.
Yeah, I think by looking at that, Foley wasn't going to make the corner even
Oh, he was
Like,
way too late on the brakes.
Ollie wasn't going to make the corner if even without snipes there. So that was purely a case of he was not paying attention in the slightest, and didn't look up from or look back from whatever he was doing until way too late. And he was lucky to even make the corner, but it was only by virtue of running into the car in front that he slowed down enough. Yep. So yeah, he's dropped himself some spots. He's picked up some damage, which might end up having to fix. So it'd be potentially another trip to the pit lane. And he's cost snipes 3 or 4 spots in the process as well. So
that's right.
Not a good safety car period for Foley here.
No, definitely not. Now I noticed Brendan Ross has been into the lane as well. I think he was one of the drivers that sort of went through when the safety car came in. Sorry, the safety car went out and everybody else came in, and he's been in and looks like he's got a set of white walls tyres on. So he's now trying to catch up to the back of the field. He's running a bit deep there at turn number 9.
Yeah, he's going to at least have another lap. The train is still continuing around, so he's going to have another lap left to catch the train. He's probably also trying to get an advantage here well, the only car he can really get advantage off of is following his drive-through.
He's about to pick up that spot too.
Back in the lane as well, which means I know exactly what he's doing because I had the discussion with him, I think, last week during Dev Series. This is the classic Pixel strat. He's on softs. We're picking up a new set of softs.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because at this point he's already at the back of the train. He's going to catch the train before they restart. You might as well have the freshest tyres from the resumption of the race as possible.
That's right. So while we're under the command of the safety car, we were saying we did have a look at the race facts thanks to Pallet Control Solutions. But the other thing we probably need to talk about, Roddy, is those 4 or so strategy calls that potentially you could have made. So thanks to Daniel Cox Designs, strategy A was to split the race with soft tyres. Looking at, they might have had an advantage for around about 10 laps. So that advantage is sort of starting to come back to drivers now because they have had 2 periods of safety car activity, and that's if it, they'll drop in grip and they'd be slower a bit, but you sort of can pit around laps sort of 15 to 16 and get off those softs and get another set of softs on and go from there if you can make them last. Strategy B was looking at doing starting on the hard tyres, doing a little bit of fuel saving and trying to last as long as you can to hope for a safety car. Well, that strategy's now sort of been shot. That way you could stay out a bit longer if there was a no-stop or if there was an early safety car, where you could pit for softs in the latter stage if you needed to. So hard tyre runners are certainly getting a bit of benefit from that second half of the strategy. If you're hoping for the safety car to come out at the correct time, it's come out a bit too early, but you can still make a gain from it. Strategy C, starting with the softs and just pushing until you're vulnerable to hard tyres. So when there's a crossover, which might have been sort of around your lap 11, lap 12, and then come in and pit for hards and then race till the end. So essentially a one-stop strategy. If you're in Dev Series, it was a no-stop strategy, but the race distance was a bit shorter, so you didn't have that problem. But in strategy D was a risky strategy. If you could do a certain lap time and average a certain fuel usage, you possibly could be up to 20 seconds faster than people who pit on softs that were averaging a different lap time, and that's only if there was no safety car at all. So that strategy is unfortunately in the bin now, like yesterday's news, and you're going to have to come up with something else. But it was a bit of a left field sort of a thought that you might be able to get a benefit from doing something like that. 1 or 2 drivers I was talking to in the field, they were definitely looking at doing attempting a strategy like that. They were going to start on that strategy, see where it got them, and if they got a benefit from it, great. If they didn't get a benefit from it, well, at least they could switch to a strategy that would suit their race as the situation arose. But for all intents and purposes, remember, it is a progressive grid into the next race after this one. So wherever you finish race 1, you do start race number 2, and you've got to finish to be classified in that as well. And right now, we have 3 drivers that will be starting at the back because they are non-finishers. That is Daniel Cox, Luke Newing, and Lachlan Locke.
And I think we're about getting ready to get going again. There is a nice healthy gap between the safety car and Wayne Walker, and yet lights are off. We'll be going at this lap.
Absolutely are. So we are awaiting the green light to be displayed, and then we'll be back to full green flag racing. So we're just coming up on the half distance. We've already chewed through 25 minutes of the race, and yeah, Walker goes again fairly early at the restart there. So we're going to have to. That one is it's twice in 2-1-2 here. We did see in development series as well, Rhodey, that a number of drivers, the race leaders, did in fact wait until the last possible moment before going back to full chat running, and I believe that was just purely because of what they were experiencing out there. They're not obligated to go when the green flag comes out. They are obligated to go once they get the green flag and up to the control line.
Yeah, I was going to say, just based on what I was seeing from the reverse camera angle that I had, it does look like Walker had gone quite before I saw any green LEDs from the trackside board, basically indicating flag state. So if that's reliable data, I'd suggest that he's gone early again, which would lead to what we're seeing here in the field's rather spread out on a restart, which normally doesn't happen.
No, that's right.
But
and a few
if
drivers
front goes a lot earlier than everyone else is thinking, then yeah, everyone else is a bit of a, okay, what do we do now? Which is going to lead to a bit of a spread. What it's led to is Walker and Stenberg pulling away, and Stenberg, I think in this case, also the last time, has just gone.
There's all sorts going on down the field here. There's a concertina effect. There's going to be another safety car. There's cars in the wall that I've got to get going here, and
yeah, I just saw Snipes came into the back of that one as well. With I'm going to hope a bit of blind spot, but he's ended up catching the back of Wedding as well. He won't be terribly pleased. He was sitting there doing all the right things after being involved in an accident, but I can see, I'm pretty sure a puncture for Tim Redmond in that.
Yeah, the track was blocked, so the yellow flag has been thrown again. So safety cars breed safety cars, and well, this is the strat, isn't it? This is the moment. You're halfway distance. You could probably put on a hard tyre and get home from here. And I was just curious to see what was going on there, because down the field, as you said, Walker and Stenberg had sort of kicked away, and then there was a big gap to a whole bunch of cars, which was being headed by it was Alex Kiddis and Darren Loughnane. And Kiddis made a mistake down at ITM corner. That allowed Loughnane to slip through into 7th place, and then Noah Tara tried to have a bit of a look at Kiddis and sort of had to get out of it, made a bit of contact. That checked up a whole bunch of other cars behind, and that's what led to cars being turned into the fence. So, as we said, don't win it on lap 1. You're certainly not going to win it on lap 15. You're going to win it on the last lap. So it's all about playing the long game here. And yeah, this is starting to get a little bit... what's the right word for it, Brady? A little bit too egregious, I think, is probably where we're going with this. And I think I can just see the orange car there, which is Luke Speck. Now, he's got the lucky dog, I believe, so he's trying to make his way through the field here. Yes, he is, and get that lap back.
Yeah, so I've just spent a bit of time looking back at that one in a bit more detail. Yeah, it was just everyone getting a little bit, probably a bit too ambitious for the first lap back under a safety car. There were actually two separate incidents there. One was Tara and Kiddis, and more triggered by Tara getting into the wall, Tim Redmond being right behind him as well. The second was actually Rory Collins up the inside of Burko at the same time that Wedding was perhaps trying to do something on Collins, and they tried to go 3 wide into the corner, which went about as well as one would think. Wedding did actually get out of it, but unfortunately with the two cars in front having an incident together, which slowed them down, it meant that Collins ended up tripping over the nose of Wedding as he went to turn in and bounced off of Burko's door at the same time. So that's what caused the second checkup. That's involved Steve Warwick then as well, and Ben Hall, and then later, very much on side, and I think maybe trying to catch up to the train, we did end up with Snipes flying into the back of Wedding as well.
Yep. So very tight part of the track as well. You know, it's a blind corner. Like you come around. Turn, I think it is turn 10, which is the sort of the kink in the little shoot between corners, and turn around and yep, brake for the next turn, not a problem. Go around the corner and there's a bunch of cars in the wall. So
absolutely, yeah. So,
very difficult.
So I can guarantee there's going to be something we're going to see of this incident in the next week and a bit. Somebody's going to have a point that they're going to see as being wrong there, and there was definitely a few contributing factors to that safety car. There wasn't one prior. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a scrappy week, and you kind of get that with Hamilton. As I said, the Dev Series race we had 2 years ago was the standard exception because everybody went in expressly, like, deathly fearful of the possibility of a safety car and drove accordingly. It's not like you can't have a proper race at Hamilton, but yeah, I think you've the only way you're avoiding a safety car is actually avoiding a safety car. Otherwise, you're going to have a safety car. Especially as we push on, now you get to the point where the hard tyre runners, if they're still pretty into the hards, they've got a bit of trying to make a bit of a play to, perhaps get back into the soft tyre runners that are committing to, or those that may cross the softs. Their time to hit the trigger has now come. We need everyone to sit down and calm down for a few laps. We might actually get green to the end. Otherwise, we're risking what we saw in Dev Series. Granted, we've already passed that mark already for the amount of green laps, I'm pretty sure. At least percentage of green laps are probably pretty close. I don't necessarily want us to have this position, and you were here for it last week, where more of the race is under yellow than is under green.
Well, yeah, I've just done the math and just had a quick look just based on Wayne Walker's times, who's currently in the race at the moment. We haven't had a stretch of more than 4 laps under green.
Yeah.
That's the disappointing part. We have not had a stretch of more than 4 consecutive racing laps under green flag. It seems really, really strange as we're watching the field sort of cycle around here at the moment. But just going off of what was there, so lap 1 through to lap 4 was all green, and then there was another short shoot between lap we got there. So that was 1 to 4, 5, 6, 7, like lap 8 through to lap 10. And then there was another stretch of 3-lap safety car period, then there was a 4-lap safety car period, and then we just sort of had that last one that was only the sort of 2/3 of a green flag lap. So yeah, that's where we're currently sitting at the moment, and we've only just ticked over halfway. So you're right, at the moment most of the running is under the control of the safety car, and I fear that the drivers and the teams will be lining up at the steward's door after the night is over tonight, and there will be a list as long as something that will need to be triaged in the off.
Yeah. The other thing this has done from where we see is really thrown any ideas of what strategy is the one to be on at this point. All I know at this point is that Walker is still on his softs he started off the race at, but thanks to all the safety car running, those are going to last a lot longer than they're supposed to. They're about to get running again. Stenberg's still out there on the hards.
I was about to say, if we are going back to green flag running, he's sort of left that a little bit late to get that under control of the field. So we'll soon see. He's going to have to really slow the pace down and make sure that the field is going to be safe before the green flag goes. Oh, is there a bit of checking up at the back there as well? As Walker has gone. No penalties issued this time. What's Devonish was waiting. I was just looking to see what was going on. Like, he was waiting for an eternity to take him down to the line, and Lochner's in the fence, and
I've got a feeling.
What's going on? Yeah, what's going on here?
I've got a feeling. Okay, I've got a feeling that in that instance, Walker has gone that early that we've triggered a false start.
Possibly.
Because the train at 4 broke away. Will walked all the way down to the line and hasn't actually picked up racing speed. So I have a feeling we've picked up a false start there.
Yeah, so
and it's continuing to throw Walker drive-through. So
well,
yeah,
I think that one I think for Wayne Walker, I think might have actually been for a track violation potentially. I'm not 100% certain of it.
No. It's been throwing him. It's throwing him every 20. There's another one. It's throwing him every 20 seconds. So this has been a false start.
Okay, so that potentially is the reason why. So yeah, Will is walking them down at the moment. I'm just keeping an eye on it at the moment. So yeah, this is sort of a bit of an interesting sort of dynamic here.
Yeah, so similar thing to those who've been watching for a while. It was Gold Coast a couple of years ago. We've had this before. So as of now, when they cross the line, it will actually be a green flag race. What this has done though is because Will's done what is probably the right thing in that, yes, check the field up, do a proper restart. What this has done though, and it's not been his intention, it's just the cars in front have had their own head of steam. Walker's got a 14-second lead over 5th place and a 24-second lead over Will. 5th place was Kiddis, who actually got spiked up the arse by somebody else in that restart queue because everyone tried to go when Will wasn't going, and that ended up passing a couple of cars. Anyway, that will need to be looked at separately later. But what that's meant is a half a minute lead for the top 4 cars.
Yeah, this is really going to pollute the space-time continuum. I think is the only way I can really sort of understand this. The top 4 have kicked away, so that's Walker, Stenberg, Green, and Liccardo, and then you've got Alex Kiddis, who is the next one that is sort of in the queue. He's all on his own in 5th place and up to 15th. So I don't know how that happened. Because he's been through the lane as well, so he's played his cards really right then. And then you've got Will Devonish, who is sort of getting control of it. Now, Noah Tara's just been given a drive-through penalty, and that will be for shortcutting or for clipping too much of the chicane, I think, because I just saw him go through the turn 5, 6, and so chicane. And if I go and have a look at his lap counts, yeah, that's his 4th strike. So on the lap count, so definitely a problem for him. As there's actually been a change for 3rd place. So Dane Liccardo going through on Anthony Green at turn number 1. So I'm going to sort of struggle to figure all this one out, as I'm going to put on my best David Croft here voice and go, Nathan Higginson, 7th place.
Yeah.
Actually now 6th place.
Now 6th place, yeah. I was looking at that earlier. That's a little rise about this. Like, Higo's partially through a couple of definitely well-meaning friends getting on his back about it. We're sitting down, I think, last week as a group. Cam was in the chat, actually, keeping him honest. I think is that a couple of the Kiwi guys as well, a couple of the SDS fellas, all very much on Higo. Then look, set some time aside, put some practice in, and look, it's going to be a perhaps slightly tarnished result with how that last restart's gone, and potentially further that the other restarts have had an influence in this. But you've still got to be there, and for Higo, with where he's usually at, and I am grasping my nearest piece of wood as hard as I can right now, he doesn't get this far into a race at this point in the season usually.
Well, you want to know something? I watched him jump in the practice server on Monday this week, and I'd actually messaged Lewis Wedding and said, I have just had conniptions because Higo was practicing, and Lewis said, well, the proof will be in the pudding if on Friday night he sits there and does what he usually does. But he has been he's been a revelation at the moment. He's bounced back after being as low as you can get with not being able to partake in qualifying, and has driven from plumb last at the moment, played his cards right. He's now 6th on the road, make that 5th on the road because someone's in the lane, and it was finally our race leader in Wayne Walker, who's come to the lane, I think, to finally get rid of those softs.
Yes.
And his teammate Alex Kiddis has been through as well. So Walker has done what he needed to do. Now the real question for him is, is this the right call? Has he made too late a decision? And he's gone to the soft tyre, so he's actually going to blaze along here and get about 10 laps out of these softs. Whether or not that is the right call, we are about to find out. If it stays green from here, there's definitely going to be a few runners he will pick up some spots against, but I don't know about getting back to within the realms of the top 10. That'll be an interesting challenge.
Yeah, it's the only. It depends on where the actual provisional first is sitting right now. Stenberg was out there on hards. He hasn't been through the lane yet. I'm pretty confident he would have to pick up the fuel somewhere, but we don't have safety for that long.
There's Stenberg. There's Stenberg. There's the 2nd place man, Liccardo, and Green behind him in 3rd. And then Alex Kiddis is out of position, so he's already been in the lane, so he's actually gone a lap down. Likewise, Steve Warwick has gone a lap down. And then have a look at this margin. Where is everybody from about 5th on back? Are they all, where are they all at the moment? They're actually coming down the main chute. So Devonish has gone through to 4th. There's Steve Warwick, who's out of position. And then Higginson, followed by Igmanis and Tara. So, whoops, and there goes Ryan Smith a bit deep. He's going to lose 1, 2, 3. Oh, be careful with the rejoin. Oh, very, very interesting there. So a big logjam of everybody else going on at the moment as Stenberg leads. He's got a healthy margin too at 7.1 seconds. It's now down to 6.9. Stenberg's still on the hard tyre. What's Liccardo sitting on at the moment? He's on the hard tyre as well.
Yeah, I think the top 3 runners at the moment are on
yeah,
hard.
all on hards.
Top 4 including Will Devonish as well. The first hard runner is, I think, Nathan Higginson at the moment. That's very first soft runner is Nathan Higginson at the moment. Yeah, and he's got a battle on with Termo, who's on the soft tyre. And then actually Tara's chasing the pair of them down on what I imagine is the same set of hards that he, well, not the same set, but the new set of hards he put on at the very first stop. So he's actually played himself back into this quite nicely as well.
Yeah, he has. Here's Igmanis, has started 9th up to 6th now in pursuit of Higginson and Double O machine, the Higginson Media Motorsport Mustang, and fairly handy job here. Now, he's doing all the right things. He's got enough of an insurance policy here. There are some fast laps being traded in it, so Devonish has just taken that away from Stenberg, who had set it over 2 consecutive laps. Oh, big double lock up for Higginson, and a bit deep, and luckily for him, there was, Termo was not close enough, but that did check Termo up a bit and has brought Tara back into play, and now down the inside for Igmanis, and block pass up in front takes that position away from Higginson. Well, there we go. There's Walker now dipping down, so that's 0.06 of a second quicker than what Devonish has done on the previous tour, but he is still down in 20th place. He is not making any real inroads.
And safety car.
Was it safety car or was it local yellow? Nope, safety car. You're absolutely right. As 2 cars that made some contact there, Speck and Smith, and that triggers the safety car. So onto the replay for that one. We're very keen to understand what's happened here. Coming out of the final corner, so it was a Vortex Racing sandwich here, and Lockman ahead of Smith, ahead of Speck, and a little bit of Lockman. So Lockman was the lucky one there. He got away with that, and then he had cars facing the wrong way. He had cars parallel, perpendicular surface, and then Walker came on the scene. Safety car called.
Yeah. So what this has done in terms of strategy call, it's helped Walker a little bit, but he's still got to get back to the front of the train. There are some cars I'm pretty sure I'm looking at pitting right now. Actually,
as far as
one of those is Anthony Green. So Anthony Green's coming out of 3rd place now. I'm going to guess to put some softs on.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Rhodey, this hands Kurt Stenberg the race.
Potentially.
I think Stenberg has had this is the 4th period under safety car on the hard tyre. He hasn't had to be in the lane once, and he's going to win this race. There'll probably be another 3 or 4 laps under safety car, and he should be fine from here. His nearest challenger is Liccardo, who's also on the hard tyre. They can go to the end. They'll finish 1-2. The question will be who's going to be 3rd. At this stage, it's Will Devonish, but the safety car has pretty much made Kurt's Christmas as far as I'm concerned, and I'm calling it now. He at this stage, I can't see any reason why he won't be the winner of race 6 of the Supercars Championship.
I don't think it's as locked down just yet. Will was fastest, 2nd fastest last lap through. What's his face? Walker was quicker, not by much, but the important thing,
he's up to
Walker. Walker did that time. Well, yeah, but Walker did that time. The important thing I'm noting though, Walker did that time on fresh softs. Will did his time on at least semi-roaded, if not very roaded hards, which means the softs, at least in Walker's hands, aren't worth much. So I don't think at this point of the race, especially with how this race is panning out, I don't think pace is purely where it's at. We know previously, and we'll find out from Stenberg after tonight's racing if he's fixed that problem long term, but we know at Winton he had issues getting the car to activate out of restarts. And keep in mind, this is the highest that we've seen Dana in a while. He's definitely missed out his pole position, but I mean, he's had a season so far that he's been very middling on pace. Today he tried to use the argument again of, oh, look, I am on pace. Sure, I can do a Super 2 wildcard. The stats, in theory, back that up, but we know where his pace is actually at. Well, very much a case for him, but also, he's not got much to lose if he comes out of this and finishes, 10th. I think he's going to give this a red-hot crack. If nothing else, he sits on Kurt's bumper, forces Kurt into a mistake. If Kurt picks up a drive-through and Dane doesn't, job done.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, full send, I think. Is that what you're basically telling me that that he's going to do?
He's got a few laps left. They're going to be... I don't have the whiteboard out, and if I had the whiteboard out at this point, it would be on fire to keep track of where all the tyre life is at. But on hards, the tyre life doesn't matter quite so much.
Yeah.
Because the window for the hards is so much longer that you don't really, like, there's maybe a little bit of an age thing. The only other thing that's really throwing this off that's going to be a wedge here is that Kiwis is trapped 21st in between Liccardo and Devonish.
Yes.
Hopefully, it's up to him ultimately, but if he wanted to let the field through, the pit lane exists on the right-hand side. But if he's going to go and race from there, we know he's probably got the pace to not be an immediate hindrance, but he is going to be in the way.
That's right, and that's why I sort of
determine
yes,
whether it's a 2-car battle for the lead or whether there's going to be more involved.
And that's why I sort of
that's going to be the split.
And that's why I said I believe that Kurt's probably in the box seat to win this race, purely because the lap traffic is in play here as well. We're getting a little bit of game lag here too. It will be a 2-horse race, but I think the experience would probably prevail over the youth at this stage. But I'm happy to be corrected. I will stand corrected if indeed that Kurt does not win the race from here, but he's in the box seat. An important thing here, it doesn't matter about the activation of the restart. This is the first restart for him that he is officially in control of the field. All the other restarts to date, the 3 of them out of the 4 safety cars so far, Wayne Walker was the man who was restarting at the head of the queue. So Stenberger's seen what's gone on, and he's done this many times before, and he will know what the drill is. He'll know where he needs to get control of the field. He'll know at what point he is allowed to go, and it's just going to be a matter of, can Liccardo behind him, is he going to be asleep at the wheel, or is he going to be right there lockstep of the way? Because remember, the leader, once the leader decides to go, they can't brake check. They can't drag the brake. They've got to maintain that consistent speed. So it's going to be about what point do you go, and does that moment in time catch your opponent off guard to the point where you open up a small little margin, and that's your insurance policy for the next couple of laps.
Yeah, just quickly talking about lap cars. We've got Kiwis in 21st, who's in between Liccardo and Devonish. That's going to decide really the top 2 or top 3, because the next set of cars is Ryan Smith and Steve Roach between Devonish and Egmanis. Egmanis is out there on soft, so he could get through there, but it's going to be decided on that as well. He could be a wild card in this, depending on how fresh those softs are, but really it's down to that top 3.
That's right. So we're waiting for, it looks like we're going around again, so there's a bit of a chance just to have a quick look through some of the drivers that are in the field just to see where they're going. It's probably Cam Rutledge's best position for a little while. He's actually the last man inside the top 10, just ahead of Steve Burko, so he'll be looking for a top 10 finish if he can make it happen. Same can be said for Phil Boak, with his teammate Brent Foley's demise, having to do that drive-through penalty. Foley's now down to 15th, and Boak, who didn't turn a lap at all in practice,
we are going this lap.
We are going this lap. Well, that's a rather interesting one. It didn't look like Stenberg was getting control of the field early enough from when I was looking at it, but here we go. That's going to give us a popcorn finish here, potentially 4 laps. Liccardo's right there, and Stenberg takes them all the way down to the line. Liccardo not asleep for that one, and off we go again. Kiwis looks like he's getting out of the way at turn number 1, and Devonish is down the inside, so that's the job done there, and we will press on towards turn 2.
Oh,
no.
I've just seen in the background,
Yeah.
though, Ben Hall's been snagged up in something. I think it's just the single car that we might get away with that.
Yeah, it looks like he's in the background there, as there was only the one penalty issued from the restart there, which I think was Alex Kiwis, who was the one that was in out of position there. Stenberg's got a good march here. He's leading out of turn number 3 onto the chicane, on board from Liccardo. Have a look and see how they go through the chicane here. Stenberg, look at the margin he opened up on the other side of the chicane. He opened up a good 3 or 4 car lengths there. So this is why I think he's probably in the box seat here, and now Devonish is looking very, very interested at the back of Liccardo, and same, there's actually there's lap traffic in the play there as well for the play here, and that's Ryan Smith. That's the second of the cars here. Now, if he's got pace, he's allowed to unlap himself, but he's got to get a wriggle on. He can't then hold up Will Devonish. He'll get the blue flags all the time, so he's got to be able to drive away from the CRE Mustang, otherwise he will be obliged to give that spot up.
Yeah, I think it's very much he's getting through. It would be a bit of a flat lie to say that has an advantage there in some way, but it's just how the things have played out. But it's one of those how the tables have turned. 12 months ago, third place and second place were teammates. Now they're not, and instead he's got Ryan Smith there to effectively tail gun for him. Of course, that's not what he's there for. He should be passing Dane the next lap or two with the pace he's got on board. But effectively, he's put himself in a position where he's able to help out in the battle with Will, and Will's going to then deal with, well, Ryan will make his way through, but he's got that little bit extra work gap now back to Dane. I see Kid is actually wide in the background as well, as Igmanis is making moves up on the back of the number 15 as well.
Yeah, he's starting to catch up. Higginson up to 5th. Boak's actually gained 2 spots at the restart there as well. He's moved from 9th up to 7th, as Cam Rutledge, I think, is just starting to come under some pressure from Steve Burko. Now they've moved up because Anthony Green's moved back. Oh, it's a blown engine, I think, for Alex Kiddis. He's over and done with. He's on the outside of turn 8. So that will be him out of business. And yes, it is Ben Hall as well. So no good there, as Tara up the having to fend off Phil Boak, who's got a real good head of steam here. It's a soft tyre versus hard tyre, I think is what it is. And Boak has got so much more grip. He's going to stay all the way around the outside there and down the inside at 13. That's a fantastic move. What a job. Round the outside at 10, 11, 12, and on the inside for the run to the line at 13. And here comes Green. I think he went to the soft tyre as well. And Boak has got to defend from the pair of Mustangs behind him. As does he get that done? No, because Tara's back down the inside here at 1.
Yeah, I don't think Noah was expecting that the slice to the point where it actually gave Tony or Anthony Green behind a little bit of run as well. What this is doing, though, ultimately, is, although Tara's just gone through, I think, properly now, is it's doing Higo a big favour because everyone's doing defending for Higo, so you don't have to worry about that. That said, the train has, well, the train's become a train rather than a roadblock, and Tara's now here, but thankfully, Green's shown pretty good pace so far this season, so far tonight. He's probably got the pace to try and do something with Tara, and perhaps that's going to do Higo a favour because Tara's going to be worried about what's in his mirrors instead of what's at his windscreen. Oh,
Will Devonish has had a moment trying to get down the inside of Dane Liccardo at turn 8. He's actually coughed up 3rd spot to his teammate in Termo, so that was a bit of a half-hearted moment there. He just lost the rear going into 3, applied too much gas, and has surrendered that position. We're going to go back to that little battle there because Tara's now locked in comedy. Wedding's in this as well. He's up to 10th. This is the battle from 5th down to about, what, 13th? 12th, 13th.
Yeah,
Tara's been nerfed. Tara got contact from Phil Boak, and they've all managed to avoid him. And that's a local yellow, so no safety car. Tara goes from about 6th or 7th to 19th with the contact from Phil Boak. We're on the last lap. Finally, we're on the last lap after 53 minutes. It'll be 54 minutes of racing by the time we get to the flag here. And Stenberg comfortably in control ahead of Liccardo, who's actually not the one behind him in screen there. That's actually Ryan Smith, who was on a much softer tyre and had pace to burn. So Stenberg, as I said, at the last safety car, funny feeling he was going to be the one that was in the box seat to walk away with the race. And it looks like that is the case. Down to ITM corner for the final time. And chalk up another win on the streets of Hamilton for Kurt Stenberg with 2 corners to go. He played his cards right. He didn't need to stop in that one. The safety car did all the work for him. And out of the final corner, and 150 championship points are in the bag.
Yeah, we were lucky he did not get a safety car at the end there, but I imagine they didn't bother to flag one. But I was too busy watching that battle for 10th, and it got so close for Nathan Higginson. He came undone. Basically, the last major opportunity, a little bit wide at the chicane, meant he got checked up into the cars behind him, and it's what's put him and Brennan Ross and a couple others down the back. It's reshuffled the back order at the back of the top 10.
Well, let's have a look at this now. So Liccardo podium finish with ahead of Devonish and Igmanis, then Green. Wedding up to 6th, so he was a major beneficiary of something that went on that final lap. Phil Boak up to 7th, ahead of Cam Rutledge. Geez, that's his best result in quite some time for Cam. So he'd be really pleased with that. Redmond was 9th and Spec 10th. What happened to Higginson? He's finished 17th.
Yeah, so he was one of a few guys. I think it might have been, I can't remember now, but he had a car up his shaft coming through the chicane, and the waters were starting to break for Higo. Unfortunately, he couldn't quite stem the flow. And yeah, just a slightly poor run through the chicane, was out of shape, then got contact from a car right behind him who had nowhere to go. End up putting him around sideways. Ross got tangled up in that as well, a couple others did. And look, still a good result from the back of the grid, but Higo had a top 10 there, and he came up all of about 3 or 4, really 3 or 4 corners short. He's still going to be in a better spot than he was for the race 1 to start in race 2. But yeah, big pile up, and I suppose, to be fair, that was the story of the race as a whole, was just avoiding the chaos or being caught up in it.
That's right. Well, chaos, I guess, is the word of the day. There was definitely a few little incidents or localised yellow incidents on the final lap or two that really needed to be just kept as local yellows, because otherwise it would have ended up in a green, white, checkered finish. But there's a lot of stories up and down that lane. Darren Loughnane on the last lap was turned around, I think, between turns 2 and 3. Brent Foley, who was, I think, 15th at one stage, finished 19th. Steve Burko lost a couple. Wayne Walker, after that, as I said, I think he missed the trick to stop earlier than what he did, and ended up finishing 14th after leading several laps of that race and having to control a couple of restarts. So there's going to be some talking points after this one is over, as the field is on their way back to the lane. So, but yeah, Scott Murrell's just said in the chat too, at one stage Luke Speck was a lap down, got that lap back under the second to last safety car, and has ended up top 10. So this goes to prove you don't need to be the fastest car out there. You just need to be the smartest driver out there sometimes, and just keep plugging away. There's nothing, there's always something that's going to come about after a situation like that.
Yeah, and I'm just getting the results in now, and the amount of drivers on this list, Lewis Wedding is an exception because he's only picked up top 10s in his appearances so far this year. The amount of drivers who have picked up their first top 10 in this year, and probably in a while before that, by virtue of how this race has played out.
Exactly. So I'm looking at first top 10 in some time. See, I'm looking at Liccardo, I'm looking at Rutledge. They're the two that stand out to me straight away. As you said there, I think Luke Speck, his first ever top 10 in Supercars competition. Who else is there? Green has had a couple of top 10s this year. There was a few drivers now that were knocking on the door of it and couldn't quite get it done. Who else are you looking at there, Rhodey?
I'm just trying to, now the substitute, I'm just trying to get the rest of the results in, because I went through my water bottle through the shootout, and so I need to put myself in some time to refill that.
Yeah,
but
so
I need the results in first.
Yeah, so Lewis Wedding, a top 10 for him. Phil Boak, that'll be his first top 10 for a while as well. NZ Snipes wasn't too far away. He was 11th. So, again, someone that drove from the rear of the grid, made up 13 spots. Is an impressive drive. So just having a look at the big movers and shakers there. So Snipes gained 13, Boak 18, Wedding 17 out of all of that. So they're the big ones. The big losers out of that one, Locke and Newing both lost 13. Darren Loughnane 14 spots lost. Wayne Walker 10, and then Noah Tara Wayne Walker 12 and Noah Tara 10. So they were all and Ryan Smith 13. So there was a lot of big moves. A lot of people lost a lot of spots after all of that.
Absolutely, just getting So big loser from that was Walker. The interesting bit we play out is we haven't got a regimented rule set, and it's very hard to review as such for how restarts play out. But especially that third one definitely had an influence on the results. In the end, didn't work out in his favour, but causing a 30-second gap off a restart isn't a good look. No,
well, look, we can sit here from the comm box and we can look at it and go, okay, there's definitely some things that need to be looked at, but we're, I guess, not the ones to make the judgment call on that one.
Absolutely.
So we will let that one sort of go, and we'll come back to sort of a few things in a few seconds. But we're just moving on to a warm-up session to try and get all the drivers in, and then we'll be right to go for race number 2. But we will take a small pause here just in proceedings, and we are going to take a look at the drivers and the team standings. That was the situation entering the night, so you can move a few things on from here after that first race. So Kurt Stenberg was your championship leader. He will still be the championship leader after this one. Wayne Walker's going to take a bit of a hit points-wise. I think Will Devonish is probably going to jump both Noah Tara and Wayne Walker as a result of that one. And Anthony Green will keep his points tally ticking over with 5th place on the standings there, and he'll be right in the hunt too for some good points haul tonight. Now, Lockie Lock was a non-finisher. You see Luke Rosella wasn't there tonight. Lockie Burke's not here tonight. Daniel Cox was a non-finisher in that first race, and Tim Redmond actually did finish the race. So there's bound to be a few drivers that will pick up some more points that are outside the top 10. If I have a look at the list overall, those that were outside the top 10, Brendan Ross, and it was the next one. Then there was Leonard Grossel, Termo, or Curtis Sigmanis. So they'll all move forward, and Lewis Wedding will probably pick up a couple there as well in substitution sort of realm for that, but still a long way to go there. We move over the page. Let's have a look at the team standings. By virtue of the fact that Lewis Wedding's actually here, I think that that's going to go a long way to trying to keep BWT Pixel Sim Sport at the top of the standings. But I think the two guys from Sideways Esport Light will probably have done enough maybe to jump ahead here. And if we look at where Anthony Green was, so he finished 5th in that one, and then his stablemate, which happens to be Rory Collins, he finished in 12th against... where have we got here? So for Wedding, that was a 6th, and for Brendan Ross, that was a 16th. So that gap will close, if not swap around after that one's over. And only one of the amped up racing by CRE cars got home. So there's still a lot still to play out there. Rody, we've already said that there's a lot still to go in this season, but already the trends are emerging, aren't they? We've got several drivers that are routinely up the pointy end of the standings. So Kurt Stenberg, Wayne Walker, they're the ones that are currently up the pointy end and doing their best to keep the scoreboard ticking over. But then all the podiums behind them have been shared between about a half a dozen different drivers at this stage for the last spot on the rostrum. So the worst results, the only difference for Walker is he's got 2 finishes that are well into the teens, where Stenberg hasn't finished off the podium yet. That's where the deficit is out in front.
Absolutely. I'm going to, just before I go get my water bottle in the 2 minutes we've got left, I will say we've updated point sheet. As you said, Stenberg still in the lead, actually more comfortably in the lead now. Walker took a hit, not enough to slip behind Will Devons just yet, but he's closed in quite a bit there. Anthony Green's up to 4th. Noah Tara's dropped back to 5th. That's probably the biggest change in that top group. Locke's back to 8th. He's been jumped by Redmond and by Termo by virtue of that 4th place. Very, very much out of step with the rest of Termo's season so far, but I hope he keeps that sort of stuff up. And the rest of that top 10 then is Brendan Ross up to 9th, and Lewis Wedding, despite missing a round, he's back in the top 10 again.
Yeah,
but I'll be back in a minute.
No worries. We're just keeping an eye on some things here just to see. It looks like we may not have Lachlan Locke for the second race this evening. Just keeping an eye on things. Looks like he's had something pack up with the pedals or the steering wheel of that in his machine. And then the only other one we're just waiting on to see if they will arrive back in to take the race for this one, I think, is Ben Hall, and wouldn't be surprised to see him not there for this one. But this is very much a hard and fast 5-minute warm-up there. There is no buts or maybes about it. The racing needs to continue tonight. And we would normally do some broadcast interviews in between a race 1 and a race 2 on a night like this. But with the shootout in play and with still another 100 kilometres to go, we need to focus on getting the night completed and getting everything done. So drivers have been told it is there's no exceptions. It's 5 minutes and it's 5 minutes only. If you need to go to the loo and get yourself sorted, you need to go and do that and jump back in and get ready to go. There's only about 7 or 8 cars out there on the circuit at the moment. So we had 24 of the 26 who took place in race number 1, and 2 will be non-starters for this one. Unsurprising that the 237 of Lockie Lock is missing this one. And then the only other one that I didn't see was Ben Hall, but we did see him down the escape road and a couple of other issues there as well. Just keeping an eye on a couple of things to see how everything's going with him at the moment, and I mean, I can see him just sort of sitting in the Discord at the minute, but I don't know if he's going to make it back. The next round, I mentioned this a little while ago, it's a return to the Bend Motorsport Park, the West layout, which is going to be in about 4 weeks' time, so that's May the 10th. So a few drivers will be looking forward to that one, I'm sure. And that presented it's a much wider circuit, but it did present a few interesting challenges for the last time we were there, and especially down at turn 6, because there's that very, very tight hairpin that cuts the circuit in half, comes back onto the other side. That caught a few drivers out. But apart from that, drivers did enjoy that circuit last time we were there last year for the first time, and happy to be going back there again. And then Barbagallo is the next round after that, followed by Hidden Valley. And that's so there's 2 races in May, and in June, just the run at Hidden Valley. 0 time left on the clock. So drivers that are on some laps at the moment pretty much will be finishing those laps, and then it will be on to race number 2 for this evening. So another one of the races this year. So we still don't know what round will be international round. That vote actually closes tonight. So anybody that is on the live chat, if you're a Supercars driver that's not racing tonight, if you are a development series driver and you haven't had a chance to go and put your vote in, you have probably about an hour to do so. So hit the Discord up and get that done, because once the vote closes, the track will be announced. And I mean, I know which track is leading, as I'm the one that administers the vote and put it up. I'm not going to say just yet. There's a few people banking on a return to the Watkins Glen short course from last season. Seemed to be a very popular vote last year. And there's a few people suggesting Monza might be the case. There was definitely some really good suggestions last year, and some great suggestions again this year. But we just don't know 100% which way that vote is going to go. It's still a very, very tight vote, and with 60-odd drivers in the field and only about 50 votes, there's still a couple of votes that could swing it either way. As warm-up is finished and racing for this evening is getting ready to recommence. So as race 6 was the first race tonight, we've got race 7 about to get underway, and I think Rhodey has rejoined us here in the box.
Yep.
And is ready to go for another 100 kilometres. That first 100 kilometres, Rhodey, took, was about 54 minutes.
Yep.
I think is what the math we did. We were budgeting it about being about 44, 45 minutes. And let's see if we can get a bit closer to that figure with this one. Now that hopefully all the drivers have got the silliness out of the system. As, I was about to say, have we, did we... Someone missed the start. I think it's Will Devenish.
Yeah, it would be Will Devenish.
All right, let's have a look at the grid then. So, Kurt Stenberg will start on pole alongside Dane Liccardo. They have a little bit of history, so that will be interesting to see how they go off the front row of the grid. I think the first time they've actually shared a front row together. Then we've got Will Devenish, who is going to start from pit lane. So, that's an I'm not sure if that's a strategy by choice or a strategy that's been forced, but he will start from the lane. That will leave his teammate Igmanis on the second row of the grid all by himself in the number 51 Mobile 1 machine. Anthony Green will share the next row of the grid with Lewis Wedding. He'll be high as a kite, I'd imagine, after being up so far in the order. Phil Boak, again, he'll be all really pleased with himself starting in 7th, and then Cam Rutledge in 8th. And he's starting on the soft tyre, I can see. So there's a few hard tyre runners around him that I can see out there at the moment. Tim Redmond in 9th with Luke Speck in 10th, so the substitute for the Vortex Racing team outpacing the full-time driver in the opposite car. NZ Snipes starting in 11th with Rory Collins in the second of the Sideways Esport light machines alongside him. Then comes Noah Taro, who got turned on the second last lap of race 1 and is going to be recovered to 13th. Wayne Walker, whose strategy ultimately didn't pay off for him, starting 14th. Ahead of Steve Burko and Brendan Ross. Then comes Nathan Higginson. Oh, what happened to Higo? Well, I'm sure we'll find out, but he's on the hard tyre. We can see the yellow sidewalls on that one there. He's going to share row with Darren Lockman in 18th, who was the star of the shootout in qualifying, but has gone a bit backwards since then. Brent Foley, 19th, with some work to do. Ryan Smith, likewise, got some pace, but with some work to do in 20th. And then rounding out the 24 cars, we have Steve Warwick, ahead of Alex Kiddis, who was a DNF late with the engine failure, Daniel Cox, who was a mechanical DNF, and Luke Newing, who was a very early DNF in the first hit out this evening. So that is the 24 cars who will take place for the second race of tonight, race 7 of the Supercars Championship in ASR for season 2024. Ready?
Yeah, just getting all the cars to get lined up now. Interesting challenge will be for some of these guys who have almost kind of got reverse gridded into the positions the way race 1 has panned out, how they'll respond to being up the front at the start for race 2.
Yeah, that's correct. Everyone that sort of started at the rear, or number of drivers starting at the rear, are starting toward the front or mid-pack, so that will be the interesting part. Now, what's going on here with Smith? Okay, he's out of position. He was just getting himself into grid spot there, I think, because he was a bit too far in arrears, trying to probably get his tyres and stuff in order, and there's somebody that's out of place. Just looking down the order and wondering if Steve Burko's a little bit too far back in the box. Nope, it was a bit further down the order. We are set, ready to go. Here we go, race 7 of the ASR Supercars Championship for 2024. The Hamilton 200, the second half of the 200 kilometres, and away we go. And at the front of the field, Stenberg does get the initial jump, this time over Liccardo, and the gap to his left-hand side, to his right-hand side, Termo had a pretty good run at getting past Liccardo into one, but he couldn't quite make that passing move pull off, and we are away. Brendan Ross looks like he was shuffled to the back there. Oh, and Liccardo, did he get pinched? That was difficult. It looked like he might have been pinched because he was out of control and ended up getting into Stenberg. Now, that wasn't his fault, but Stenberg's in a world of hurt here and getting his ears boxed in with wetting going through. I'd like to go back and take a look at the replay of that at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see. But Liccardo comes out with the lead inadvertently, I think, because of what happened on the approach to turn 2.
Yeah, so the first part of that was Igmanis into the back of Liccardo, then ended up being sprayed across the road and in the back of Stenberg. So you're right, not intentional from Liccardo in the slightest. Second part of that, I didn't catch too much of it, but Walker was involved trying to make his way back up through the pack and caught the back of the Coles car at quite a rate of knots. So that's, yeah, very, very torrid first sector for Kurt Stenberg. They're dropping back to 5th. Wedding's trying to make all of what he can of it and more. He's trying to make a move here on Tim Redmond. He's trying himself onto the podium.
Here's that replay.
I mean, not very much, but...
Here's the replay here, so you can see here, and... yeah, just a bit of contact. It's a bit hard to tell from that angle if there wasn't any space left, but it was a very awkward situation, and the wheel-to-wheel contact sort of splayed Liccardo in a really difficult spot to the point where he was out of control. And yeah, the unintentional contact, but we just don't know whether or not that was as a car moving over on another car or one trying to have a go at another car and not being enough room. Either way, Liccardo's led his first lap in ASR Supercars in probably some considerable amount of time. I can't recall the last race where he even led a lap, Rody.
Yeah, I'd say at the moment, and I think I can't conclude the top 4 given the last 18 months the 4th place drivers had, this is the fight of the guys who have tried their best but have been unable to win Supercars races, because Tim's been the most podiums out of the win for quite a while. I haven't kept the stats up to date, but I know he's still there. He's picked up Enduro wins, but never a solo win. Liccardo, same thing. Igmanis, he's been a while. I think his wins have all been Enduros, and Lewis, his last wins came probably a couple of years ago.
Redmond goes through the lead at ITM corner. Got a good run out of out of turn 8. He's on the soft tyre too, I believe. Yes, he is. So he got a really good amount of purchase out of turn 8 and was able to out-drag the number 35 from Dane Liccardo down into ITM corner. So he will lead here. Now, this is important. Clear air. You've got to kick away now with the soft tyre. You've got to make this tyre work. If you're he's up 8 spots from the start, so he's a big beneficiary here. He's got to make the most of this. So soft tyre, I'd say he's going to probably be in maybe around lap, what do you reckon, Rody, lap 10? somewhere
It
around
depends
that.
on how long he's allowed to run for, but yeah, lap 10, lap 11, big dive from Lewis Wedding on Dan
Got
Leclerc
it.
as well, but that will be, and I was looking through, Dan Leclerc's the only one at the top 4 on the hard tyre, so that's why they're eating him up as easily as they are. That said, he's putting up a good fight for it, and that's all his thing. He's got tyre life, they don't. He's going to make them use it, which is what he's been doing. He made Tim Redmond earn that. He's made Lewis Wedding earn his pass as well. Probably do the same thing to Turmo, but he's got more trouble coming because Kurt Stenberg's caught back up as well.
That's exactly right. So yeah, so the top three, it's the top two at the moment. Wedding and Redmond both on the soft, Liccardo on the hard, but under some pressure from Egmanis. You can see him coming through the shot there as well as we go on board with Kurt Stenberg. So Egmanis will get an easy pass done here into ITM corner, and Stenberg's going to line it up here and hopefully, for his sake, swing it down the inside here. Not quite, but I reckon he's going to probably line it up for turn number 1. There they go, and Phil Boak's bought into this as well now too. So what's Boak on? Is he on soft?
Yeah, he'll be. He's on the
soft.
soft. So he's doing the best of what he can out of the first stint, taking advantage of where he started that race after how the last one panned out.
There we go. So I thought Stenberg was going to try and line that one up there, but he also had to think about Phil Boak, who's right there. Wayne Walker is now up into 7th place. He's just looks like he's put a move there on Noah Turris. That's the next battle. Up front, though, Wedding really is throwing down the challenge to Redmond. He was a full 0.5 of a second quicker last time around. And then have a look at this log jam. Stenberg got the two of them coming out of turn 2 with a fantastic move.
Yeah, it was interesting. That's the second time that those 3 cars have had an interplay, and it's gone the inverse way this time around. It's ended up with Liccardo put to the back of the train and Egmar sitting in the middle of it. But yeah, that was kind of somewhat inevitable with hard tyre between Liccardo and Stenberg, but Stenberg's definitely got the pace advantage. And Egmar's out there on the softs as well, as is Folks. He's the next one potentially going to line it up on Dane. That said, they might be pretty even on pace as things play out.
No, that's right. So we have a bit look into the middle of the top 10. Oh, drive-through penalty for Daniel Cox already?
That's early.
That's very early. So that means he's been stung, 4 times in 4 consecutive laps going through the chicane. I'm just going to double check that just to be 100% sure. And yeah, he's been, well, he got 1 on lap 1, he got 1 on lap 3, or 2 on lap 3. He's been stung 4 times in 3 laps. Wow.
We did talk about it, that it'd be possible, and it's unfortunate that Coxie, in doing the research to give us the notes, is the one to then go and do it. But yeah, we mentioned very easy to pick up multiple cuts of the chicane, and unfortunately Coxie is provided us a very good visual example of that. Yeah, Vera's going flying every which way. You can imagine there at the moment, a lot of concrete eating wing mirrors at the moment. Seeing all the mirror caps going here, there and everywhere. Higginson's found 7 spots again, so that early pace that he did have, he's definitely still got it. It's no fluke. He's put the practice in for it, but the luck hasn't gone his way tonight, so he's hoping that that luck will change. He's tucked in here behind Anthony Green. Now these are both hard tyre runners, I believe, as well. Higginson and Green looking for the switchback. No, that was a little bit ambitious, and had to get back into line. He had about 2 or 3 different thought patterns that he went through there, I think, just to try and make a move stick, but no, not quite. And now big torture of the front right tyre going down into turn 9, and he's now going to have to carry that for a good part of the race, and the tyre naturally goes back to that flat spot again as he pursues Green. And a mistake from Rutledge at turn 11 has now put not only NZ Snipes, but it's also put Ryan Smith right on his hammer, and he's going to have to defend into 1. So the Beyond electrical car attacking the CRE electrical car. Ryan Smith gets one of them. He gets down the inside of Snipes. He couldn't get down the inside of Rutledge though. So now it's an electrocution, I think, of the Sideways Esport Dark Machine. Or is it? Nope, not quite. As Smith gets a very late dive on the brakes there, block pass, and that actually allows Snipes through on Rutledge. So bit of an unfortunate circumstance there. Cam Rutledge held out high and wide by Smith, and Snipes very smartly down the inside for a place. Yeah, I've just been having a look at something, and I have to jump in a second to do a bit of own work. So I've just noticed that Specky's been dropped a lap for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I've just had
2 laps actually.
Oh yeah, it's 2 laps. Well, I think so at least a lap. I'm not sure whether there's 2 because he's with other cars as well. But yeah, I'm not sure what's happened there for him to be dropped the way he has. But I'll have to jump in a second and fix that. But actually, no, I've lost train of thought. I'll go do that now.
Well, I'm actually just about to have a bit of a look just actually to see why he's actually so far down the order. And he actually had a 4-minute 37 opening lap, so you might have to actually just go back and have a bit of a look and see if he actually came into the pits or something happened there, because that's highly unusual with where he currently is in the order. Like, he's currently on the back of, who's on the back of Brett Foley, I think it is.
Yeah, I'll probably have a
back
look.
of Brent Foley.
You might have enough replay to check that first, because yeah, that's odd. Either that or he's managed to miss a timing sector somewhere.
Yeah,
so, yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, you'll have to double check that one, I think, before you go too far with that. Because yes, on our screens here we can actually see he's clearly ahead of Rory Collins, and he's behind Brent Foley. So if he's behind Foley, he's currently sitting in 20th place, and that would facilitate a correction. But yeah, we're going to have to check that and see what's going on there as well. As Rutledge is just falling down the order a bit here. Those soft tyres are starting to go away a little bit, and Burko down the inside at the 3rd corner, affectionately known as the Sky City corner. And now the hard tyres, I think, are just starting to come into a bit of a rhythm here. Starting to find that spot, and we've spoken about this several times already. This was one of the big changes that was in the off season, was the new hard tyre made it a more viable tyre. The longevity was there, so it immediately now has a stint advantage over a soft tyre. But soft tyre is still a capable tyre, but it's now more suited to a qualifying than anything else. So we go back to our race leaders here. So Wedding has managed to wrestle the lead away from Redmond. And they are trying to put some margin between themselves and Kurt Stenberg, who's just managed to find his way past the number 51 of Egmanis in the last lap or two as well. So now we'll start to get a bit of a read on where these two soft tyre runners are at versus Kurt Stenberg on the hard tyre. Good early stint of running here as well. So plenty of strategy still to play out.
I've just confirmed that as well. Specky was in the pit lane, I think, end of lap 1, start of lap 2. So yeah, that will be that, and probably resultant blue flag or something else is why he's gone down a lap. But yeah, the pit lane stopped by drive-through by itself was 40 seconds.
Yes,
and he stopped. So that's going to contribute to him going a lap down. So that'll be what's actually triggered that.
I'm wondering whether that might have been like enough fuel in the car or something, and actually rather than blow the straight, he's actually come in and now kind of hoping for a safety car. Unfortunately for him, it means he's now, according to live timing, he's 2 laps officially down on the race leader, which is not a good sign. Liccardo started to fall through the field now. He's down to 7th place on that hard tyre, and Wayne Walker is reeling him in. Now, Walker started race 1 on the soft tyre, and I dare say he's on the soft tyre again. But again, the question is, how many stops do you want to make, and how far can you go on that tyre before you start to kill it? As down the inside, no, actually, and I think I've just had a bit of a sneaky look, and Walker looks like he's actually on the hard tyre. So that's a change of strategy from race number 1, and a mistake from Liccardo at turn 1 yields 7th place for Walker. So through he goes.
Yeah, so Walker and Liccardo both on hards, as are the 2 cars behind them as well. So a lot of guys that definitely ended that first race on soft, starting this first one on hards, which we were talking about strategies earlier, and I was going to add in if there was some, and there wasn't. The hard tyre is probably the one you want to start on because it's the most flexible for strategy changes down the line. It gives you the most padding to work into if a safety car falls at a time. Whereas a soft is going off at about 10 laps and is expired by 17. You need to have a safety car before then for it to go into your favour, otherwise you make a green flag stop. With a hard, you can basically go the entire race and then bolt a soft set on the end and make a charge there.
Yep, so there we go, Darren Lockman on the soft tyre, down the inside of Snipes on the soft tyre, and then Burko behind them is on the hard. So these are outside the top 10. And Manus, what's happened to him? He's very slow out of turn number 11. Has he had a puncture or an issue or something that's dropping him down the order? Yeah, he's got all sorts of problems at the moment. Is he? I think he's coming to the lane.
I'm going to guess a puncture.
Yeah, he's coming to the lane. So Well, thankfully he wasn't too far from the lane. Yes, it will hurt the Strat, but interesting to note what happens to him in all of this. And actually, he was very slow for a while, so it's actually happened a lot earlier. I'd say he's clipped a wall somewhere, and he's ended up with a puncture.
Okay, so I've just gone back and had a look, and it was a little more complicated than that.
Okay.
He's wobbled off the curb after the chicane, the one we kept telling people not to go near, and has then been snookered by Kurt Stenberg, who wasn't trying to catch a slide, which has then fired Curtis into that little bit of left-hand wall that juts out at an oblique angle.
Well,
he set a punch in front of his car, which would explain the puncture, which has also meant that Kurt Stenberg's dropped a few spots, which is probably the other thing that you saw in all that as well.
Well, I've just noticed as soon as you mentioned Kurt Stenberg, I went straight to find where he was on the tree, and he's 9th, and he's actually behind Nathan Higginson and Anthony Green. So yes, that actually will have hurt his strategy play pretty badly now, because he was in a nice position with some of the soft tyre runners out in front, no doubt stopping soon. And as we say that, Lewis Wedding is in the lane. So he is coming in to get rid of those soft tyres. They've lasted 10 laps. So that's not a bad return. And I fully expect, actually, what's he going to do here? Now, he's at the very end of pit lane, because by virtue of the team's champion, so that's in front of Egmanis. And there he is taking service there. So we'll keep an eye on what tyre he goes on to in the next few moments. And I would be surprised to see Tim Redmond in the next lap or two. In actual fact, Wedding has left the lane actually about 5 or 6 seconds before his teammate arrives to take service as well.
Yeah, that would have been very nicely planned out to make sure they didn't have double stack. Only one team had a double stack, from what I noticed in that first race. It was PBF.
Yeah.
They did it properly. Bokey was lined up next to the car behind him to give plenty of space for the cars around him on track and not try to do the sneaky double stack.
Looks like Wedding's gone back to the soft as well, actually, Rody. Just out of curiosity, I'm just looking to see. Looks like he's on the soft tonight. I'm not sure if Brendan Ross has done something similar.
He's on the softs as well, so common strategy down there.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also, as he leaves here as well, Redmond is the race leader, and there he is, the back of shot. So he's going around again, just gets out in front of Brendan Ross and has a nice little margin at the moment. He enjoys a 7.8 second margin over Phil Boak.
Yep.
Still on the soft
reading
tyre.
that right?
Yes, we are indeed reading that right. I kid you not. It is Phil Boak who is in second, and Boak is on the soft tyre.
Yep.
And then behind him, Noah Tara. Now, let's see if we can get a glimpse of the sidewalls on this one here. To me, that looks like a soft tyre as well.
Yep.
And then Ricardo's the first driver on the hards in 4th.
So I'm trying to remember whether it was this race or last. No, it was this race. No, it would have been last race. Anyway, yeah, Noah's had a bit of a charging up anyway. He was involved in a little bit of stuff early. That's sort of why he's sort of back here, considering where his, no disrespect to Boki, we know where his pace is like. We know what Noah's Tara's pace has been like this year. Tara's been the fastest CRE driver, and Boak hasn't been that fast. So he'll probably start to work his way through. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if Tara's perhaps using, is perhaps tonight using Boki as a bit of a benchmark for how fast he wants to go on his softs, to maybe get a little bit more of a tyre window out of him, because outright pace, as I said earlier, won't do you too many favours here during the race. It's really about strategy, making those tyres last. So perhaps taking advantage of that, or also the strat we're coming to Lewis Wedding, sitting on the slipstream and picking up some fuel saving.
That's right. Well, top 3 all on soft tyres have gone around again, so this is interesting. I'm wondering if they're trying to do one of the strategies we talked about a bit earlier, and that's try and split the soft tyre strategy down the middle, as close to middle as you can get. So you're sort of targeting lap 15, 16, I guess, is where you're looking at. Redmond's on his way to the back chicane. Well, Brendan Ross, who just went through the chicane, just got dealt a drive-through penalty for too many track violations. And that will hurt him too, because he's only just been in the pits to take service and put on a new set of soft tyres, so he's got that a little bit wrong there. So the strat for soft tyre would be, pit on lap 15 or 16 and then try and get through to lap 31 because it's an odd number, so you've got to do 16 laps on one and 15 laps on the other, but you did have the formation lap that took a little bit out of the tyres too. So as Alex Kiddis, I'd say, got the same penalty for the same treatment at the back chicane. But yeah, if you can get to lap 15 and then or lap 16 and get in, and I think you'll be okay, as Redmond's got quite some clear track at the moment. Next one's on the run here. We have Liccardo ahead of Walker, ahead of Higginson, Green, and then Stenberg, and then Steve Burko, who's been a bit of a quiet achiever. I think even you called that tonight, Rhodey. He's been a rather quiet achiever as Noah Tara peels off from third place into the lane.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, he's doing a good job. He did a good job in race one, and yeah, just with where his pace has sort of been at in Supercars general, sort of just been floating thereabouts. One of the few genuine privateers on the grid this year. But yeah, he's been working away pretty nicely. He's obviously sitting there in 8th, and I'm just going back and having a second look at things because Chad is pretty confident that Specky is an extra lap down and where he should be. So I'm just going back and double checking the broadcast because that'll give me a better indication of where the lap counts are at. So I might still have to do with something there, but that's what I'm keeping an eye on the second screen as well.
Yeah, so not an issue there, as keeping an eye to see what Noah Tara is actually up to at the moment. So he's leaving the lane. Now, he was right under the rear wing of Phil Boak, so this is effectively an undercut strategy, and it's an undercut strategy going to the hard tyre. So he's leaving the pits at the beginning of lap 14 for him on the yellow sidewalled compound. So he'll be right to the finish from here. You don't need to put too much fuel in to make this distance work. You either need to do some hardcore fuel saving, or you need to put in about 30 odd litres, just sort of the low 30s, just to make sure you get home if you start from a full tank. So for Noah, he's probably exhausted all the fuel that he needs to exhaust, and then he can get in and get that job done and get going. Now, a little bit of traffic for race leader Tim Redmond, but keeping an eye on the lap times. His fastest laps are 23.0. Most of the last few laps he's been doing in the 1 minute 24, so surprisingly consistent. So have a look, the last 4 laps for him: 1 minute 24.1, 1 minute 24.0, minute 24.3, and a minute 24.2. So very, very sort of consistent times. And even before that, his times, most of the times in the sort of the block of 5 or 6 laps prior, were in the mid 1 minute 23. So he's managing the tyre really well here, Rhodey. His margin's going out nice and slowly. You can see there it's up to 10.5 seconds, so it's a really good solid margin at the moment. He's still got plenty of life in this rubber yet.
Yeah,
or so it seems.
Yeah, I was just going back and digging. I think I figured out what it was. Specky didn't appear on the timing tree until at least a lap into the race.
Right.
So he's missed the first timing sector somewhere, and because he never started or either he just didn't count him at the line, but the point is he hadn't started the race, so he got a full lap and possibly even 2 laps through, which goes to what people have been saying. I can give him back a lap. I need to see where he sits once I give him back a lap, but yeah, he hasn't recorded at least 1 lap and possibly 2.
Right, so there we go.
I don't know what that is, but the game decided to throw it like a hissy, which goes with what they're saying in the chat, that the game's doing weird things tonight. Yes, it is. I haven't seen that before at all, and we've been doing this for 5 years. So I don't know what that is, but I'll see about fixing that.
Rightio. So that would mean Luke Speck at the moment, who's currently tucked in behind Fubok. Oh, Alex Kiddis has been disqualified. Now, I can tell you what that'll be. There will have been, I reckon there was a drive-through penalty that was issued a bit early. We did see one pop up, as Cam Rutledge has just got one for an infraction. And Kiddis will have been disqualified for not getting into the lane, probably to serve that penalty. So he would have been dealt one for the track violation. That is official. You can't get those ones taken off you. The ones you do get taken off you are the ones that do occur by pure accident at the restart by virtue of the rules that we abide by here in ASR with the safety car restarts. So that is it's a loss of it's 0 points for him for this one tonight. Now, Redmond's times have just started to slide a bit more towards the 1 minute 25 bracket, and he's in at the end of lap 16. So I'm expecting to see soft tyres go on car number 43 here. We'll keep an eye for that. There's Phil Boak coming to the lane, so he's doing a similar strategy and starting to mirror what Redmond does. That will then reveal Dane Liccardo in the lead of this race, along with Walker and Stenberg, the drivers that are on the podium positions at the moment. So Mustang, and Camaro, your top three. And, well, for Liccardo, someone looking for his first win of a Supercars career, let alone the season. And the contra strategy by Redmond and Boak to see what they can do to really shake up the space-time continuum here. But this is now an interesting one. We've had a good chunk of green flag running, Rhodey. The field's well spread out as well. So this is going to be a rather interesting one to see how this pans out. Oh, Liccardo had a big moment going through the chicane. The car landed awkwardly. Fistfuls of opposite lock, had to use the wall to partially control the car. Thankfully, he's not vulnerable to the 217 of Wayne Walker. Otherwise, he would have lost that lead.
Absolutely, yeah. And he's sort of been able to take advantage of those behind him and playing it a bit carefully. Because, yeah, I will say, and I've had the advantage of not looking at this race for half it to still be surprised by this. I'm surprised that Dane's still sitting up where he is. Granted, he had Tim go through, and then Tim's spinning. He's had some other guys pull through, but he's doing a really good job holding himself out there. And credit to him, he didn't get a lot of practice in this week, but he got in practice where he could. I know he was elbow deep in trying to fix the front end of a car on Wednesday, but he got in on Thursday and did some practice as well. And I see, as I said earlier, all of his practice leading into tonight was purely hard tyre race runs, so clearly that's paying off for him now. Whether he's got the strategy called to the back end to really consolidate this, we'll yet to find out, but it's a really good run from him so far.
Yeah, it definitely is. Now, Redmond's still in 13th. Now, the real curveball in this equation, Rhodey, I'm about to reveal it. There's Redmond, and if you look a bit further in the rear of shot, you can just see him there. He's just starting to emerge. It's Noah Turra, and he's on the hard tyre. Remember, he was on the soft. He got in. He has jumped Phil Boak, right? So that's the important strategy play there. When Turra came to the lane, he was right under the rear wing of Phil Boak. That is a net position by undercut for the driver of car 26, and he is on the more durable tyre. He's on the one that's got better lifespan, and I'm going to be keen to see what he does against Tim Redmond. Redmond will have this early advantage through the next sort of 4 or 5 laps, where the soft tyre has definitely got a performance advantage, but as it starts to degrade, this is where Turra will start to come at him. So if there's a battle if it stays green and there's a battle for the race lead, this will be very, very interesting towards the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, I'm just going to take the present opportunity, given how much you've given me shade for this in the past, to pass it on to someone else. Specky, I'm happy to have helped you out. Don't be watching the stream and jumping in the live chat during the race, though. I appreciate you were in the pit lane when you did it, but don't do that, please and thank you.
Please and thank you, yes.
But yeah, all good, Specky. But yeah, so I was just looking at him just to keep an eye on him. He's just been in the pit lane, he's come back out again, just ahead of this train as well. So he's slotted back in behind 19th, who's just nicked the wall. That was Coxie. So he's just about keeping us off on the out of being 2 laps down. But yeah, it would have been a case of being a lap down from the game kerfuffling and then also serving a lap 1 pit lane stop, which I'm going to guess was maybe him trying to get through to somebody else and go, hey, this is broken, what's happening here?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're right, he's actually just come out just ahead of the leading group of cars as well. So Cox is just ahead of Liccardo by about, what's the rough estimate there, probably about 6 or so seconds on track time-wise. But then Cox himself is on lap 18, whereas Liccardo's on lap 19. As we're going to go back and have a look a bit what's going on here, because we've got Wayne Walker and just starting to hold off the advances here of Green, who's really got his hands full with Higginson. Now, just looking at him here, so Liccardo, Stenberg, Walker, Green and Higginson, I believe, are all on the hard tyre, and Burko, I believe, too. So the first 6 drivers at the moment, all on the hard tyre. As a bit of contact there for Higginson. The door was there, and Green left the door open for him, but the tail of the 00 wagged the dog, and he got a bit sideways coming out of 1, and then lost his mirror cover on the left-hand side in the process, and he's wagged the tail of the dog again.
Yeah. Higo's biggest thing, and he won't hear it now, but we talked about it last week, and it's something that he'll probably hear if he watches this back. And he's doing a pretty good job of it tonight, so I can make mention of it. Higo's biggest thing is the always pushing it at 10 tenths, or in some cases 11 tenths. And it's something like we've said in not quite so many words before. But that's the thing, is just taking a step back, driving the thing at 9 tenths. You've done a pretty good job tonight, and I suppose the hard tyre is an opportunity to do that, because you can't do your fast lap with a hard tyre anyway half the time. So it's a good opportunity to drive a bit more within yourself. That was, I think, just more a case of just awkward positioning and the bumps being where they are. It's a very hard corner if you're not on line through 1. Similar thing at 2. 2's the obvious one, obviously, and 3 at the roundabout as well. But no, even he sucked in behind Tony is a good job. And I suppose very much, the fast lap for Specky there, so he's got some good tyres on now. You very much got the confidence, at least with Tony, even if from the point of view that Tony's come out of Dev Series and he's quicker than I am, even though I promoted from Dev Series a year earlier, I should be ahead of him on pace. At the very least, he knows Tony. He's, one of Higo's many hats is junior admin now for SES, trying to help keep that trying to keep all those ducks in a row. But they're good mates, and he's got an opportunity to tag on the back of Tony here, pick up on some of Tony's lines, because Tony is somebody who's picked up podiums already this season, and maybe pick up an extra tenth without having to try and find extra tenths, just having it sort of fall in his lap rather than having to go looking for it, which might help you go out.
That's right. So there actually has been a little something else that's happened in the few seconds as well. So Redmond and Lewis Wedding have had to negotiate not only Rory Collins, but they've also had to negotiate a lap down Cam Rutledge too. Now, Wedding's actually ended up ahead of Tim Redmond after all of this as well. Now, they're both on the soft tyre, so Wedding has definitely got a tyre advantage at the moment, because he stopped a little bit earlier, but then Redmond's going the longer strat, so Wedding will have to come in again, because I don't think he's going to be able to make the soft tyre last several laps longer than what Tim does. But this is, I think, holding up potentially Redmond a little bit here, as the last laps for these two, Wedding 125.3 and Redmond 125.5. So they need to get, Redmond either needs to clear Wedding, or the pair of them need to pick up their game, because Redmond was comfortably in the 23s. Right, now we've got some activity in the lane. So this is the important activity. Liccardo's going to ditch the hards here, and I dare say he's going to go to the soft. So too, I'm expecting Anthony Green, Luke Newing coming in the back a shot as well. So these are going to be changed positions that these two will now pick up as they come to the line, legitimately pick them up. That's then going to mean, as Foley's got did he get a drive through for a track cut? Or I think he did.
Yep, he was.
And Wedding
he would have just come through the chicane.
So and there's Wedding. So Wedding's gone in. That's now going to release. And I was about to say, I didn't think he could make those soft tyres last from getting in from the time that he did. That has released Redmond into 6th place. It also releases Turra into 8th, and he should pick up Rory Collins pretty shortly as well. Liccardo's going to come out 10th behind Phil Boak. So Boak, who's already been in and made a stop, he has managed to hold that. So this will now be an interesting bit to see what Liccardo can do on the soft tyre. There he is, just exiting turn number 2. But what about the leaders? Ryan Smith, fastest lap of the race there as well. That's interesting. So at the moment, Stenberg leads the race. Walker and Higginson going to the lane along with Burko. So they're a lap later, so they'll have 1 lap fresher tyres to attack with over the course of the last few seconds of this race. So that's 3rd, 4th and 5th on the road. That means you come to Redmond. He's going to pick up a couple more spots here, and Devonish has gone through as well. So still a lot to shake out here. Strategy's starting to unfold. What's Redmond's time this time? So he was doing comfortably 23s, 24s, 23.3 this time around. So immediately once he cleared Wedding, he's definitely able to pick up his pace. Walker now on the move along with Higginson, and there's Liccardo coming down the front straight just in the top right hand corner there, so they're going to lose spots to him. Then you've got Green, and Lochnan is actually he's further down the order, I believe. He's 12th. Actually, he's going to might pick up 1 spot. He might be lucky. Oh, he's having a bit of a hissy fit at the wrong moment on the broadcast. He might get Higginson actually down the chute towards turn 2, got warmer tyres, and he gets it done. Did Higginson go back to the hard? Has Higginson gone back to a hard tyre?
He has.
Oh, that's a big strategy miscue as far as I'm concerned. The soft tyre was in the window, and that's a free kick every day of the week to your opposition. You've picked the wrong tyre strat there, I'm afraid, and I think you might be able to push a bit harder, but you would probably dearly love that bite over the course of the last couple of laps to really make that work.
The one thing I will throw out though, and this is based on what we saw in race 1, the fastest lap on softs was only a couple of tenths better than the fastest lap on hards. So if you've been driving the hards, and especially if you've been driving the hards all race, you might just be more acclimatized to them. They might, it depends on how hard he's going to push them. He might prefer something that has a bit more of a backstop to it, rather than something that will fall off after 10 laps. He doesn't have 10 laps left to go, but he might just be more comfortable with the tyre, and if the pace difference is only a couple of tenths, it might not make much of a difference. So it's not the optimum strategy call, but I don't think he's quite sunk his ship yet.
No, but it's definitely going to cause a bit of an issue over the next little bit, especially with the car that has some better grip at the moment, but it might come back to him a bit later on. Now, I'm just keeping an eye on some things here, Roddy. One of them is just the way Kurt Stenberg's driving the car at the moment. He's just driving along quite smoothly and quite nicely. He's not over asking too much of the car. His lap times have dropped into the 25s, so he's and now to the 26s. So I reckon he's on the fuel save strategy.
He's no stopping. That was a monumental lift and coast into one. He's definitely trying to no stop.
Yeah. He realised that after what happened, where he was shuffled down the order into P9, that he after the contact earlier on, that he needed to do something a little bit different, and I think. Yeah, this is the strategy call to make this happen. So this is the counter strategy to what Redmond and Boak and all the others have been done. Like they played probably a good card, but they're not close enough to really force Stenberg to use what he's got. Same, I guess, can be said for Will Devenish. So he's sitting here in second place.
And he's short shifting as well.
And he's short shifting as well.
Same thing. So yeah, he's not going to catch him then. So that was my next thought was, is Will on a strategy that allows him to push? And no, same strategy. He's doing the same thing, playing the same fuel game, so he's limited. The only driver on the road who's actually pushing the top 3 right now is Redmond, but he's still got quite a way to go to get to Will, let alone to then get to the lead. Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, 2 seconds a lap or even a second a lap faster than the drivers in front, with the amount of laps that are left on the table, are not going to make it happen. And then the thing for me is it's been complete green flag running. So a lot of these drivers have been forced into a situation where they need to continually short shift to make life happen here. Stenberg's just done a 24.9, even though with a big lift and coast into turn number 1. So he's definitely still got some pace in that car. As we might just go on board here with him, and we'll have a bit of a listen. Yep, down here into turn number 2. Definitely taking a little bit easy here, I think, right? He's just managing the car, just managing the race, and Superior, I think, probably the superior strategy call at the moment. I mean, we don't have the luxury of understanding how much fuel they have left on board, whether or not it's actually going to make it or not. Some others out there will probably have a little bit more of an idea than we do. Yeah, I will say if either of them feel they're definitely out of the window, they won't continue round. They'll get in as soon as possible, get soft tyres on. So I think they're both, at least from where their numbers sit, they're either in the window or they're close enough to it that they reckon they can scoogee over to fit right into that window. So the only one out here who's actually have a genuine push is Redmond. He's still got the concern of any track cuts he has already burnt and whatever he's got left. And that's one of the things that plays in the advantage of Stenberg and Devenish, because while they're not going slow, their strategy relies on finishing.
That's right.
So they can afford to lose a little bit here and there, and perhaps make the chicane one of their fuel saving spots.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm just keeping an eye on that margin as well from Devenish to Stenberg. And I think just the live timing is a little bit of a different beast, but even it's coming down slowly, but it's not coming down fast enough anyway. Now the gap that is coming down pretty quickly that I'm keeping an eye on here is Noah Turra. Right, now we did say that his hard tyre versus Tim Redmond's soft tyre would be the one to keep an eye on. At the moment, the deficit is 6.9 or 6.8 seconds, and he's been chipping away at it, but with only 5 laps remaining. Probably a bit too far back to really make that work. His tyre, Redmond's tyre, would have to fall off a cliff really to make anything work here. And even then, there's another car, I think, in the way there as Redmond goes through in front of shot, and I think it's Brent Foley who's the lap traffic in behind Tim Redmond. There's, it's a yellow flag. I just seen there's a yellow flag for someone's down the escape road, and it's Igmanis, and I think that car's on fire, Rhodey. That's a pretty nasty fire there on the 51, is it? Yep, and that is him over and out.
Yeah, so would have probably banged a gear or too many.
Yep.
Downshift to IDM corner and smacked the wall as well, which probably didn't help. But that's all she done.
That's done for him. So some good points, unfortunately, go begging for Termo. He had a very, very good run, I guess, at the end of the day as well. In the early going, he was looking pretty good, and the recovery path, unfortunately, comes up with big fat 0 points for this one. Same can be said for Alex Kiddis with the DNF. Steve Warwick also DNF unsighted to us.
Yeah, right. I went back and had a look at that one, and actually Steve covered the reasoning in the chat, but he managed to, again, with that wider Gen 3 car, managed to snag the chicane wall on the way into pit lane at such an angle that he didn't Austin power himself, but he practically did. Basically, as he was trying to 5-point turn the thing back around, the very nice flat front and rear of the supercar meant that as soon as he touched the wall, it straightened him back out into being perpendicular to the wall again. And basically, he was stuck trying to go back and forth, like the Austin Powers little cart thing that everyone's probably seen. Stuck there trying to get the thing out, and it just wouldn't come out. So in the end, he probably would have got it out eventually, but I think it was just fighting a losing battle at that point. So stepped out, which is a shame. He wasn't in a good run, but it's a hard one to get out. And in the moment, you were very frustrated by that, and it's very hard to sit down and take a second to have a breather, especially when you're parked in the pit lane entrance like that. He had the potential that if safety car was called, he'd be blocking the entire pit lane, which would go down well.
Yeah, exactly. That's not what you want to be seeing with all of that one, as Higginson's having to have a bit of battle here to hold off Steve Burko. This is for 9th and 10th. Luke Newing's only a couple of seconds behind, so looking for a good wall of points there. This battle, I think, is pretty much done. The whole strategy play of where we thought everything was going to end up has unfortunately not materialised in the way that it was expecting to. So we were thinking that Redmond was going to be the one that was looking the goods for a good result here. He's still going to get a good result with 3rd place, but the Kurt Stenberg having swapped strategy after being sort of punted down the order with the contact from earlier on in the race, going straight into a fuel save mode, he's been able to extend the life of the tyre and extend the fuel tank range here, which is why we did say at the when we introduced the Pallet Control Solutions race facts in race number 1 that pit stops were indeed optional, and he's now only got 2 more laps to go. Will Devonish is getting a bit closer in the mirrors there, Rhodey, but the margin not coming down fast enough. And now down to 3.6. It was 5.1 last lap, but there's only 2 laps to go. I don't expect that's going to come down enough in time for a change of position. Yeah,
it's 2 laps left to go, and very much I think Kurt's going to let it come down to where it has to come down to, and then he probably, he could be limited. I reckon he probably has just a little bit in the pot if he needs to push just to maintain the gap at a safe distance. And to be fair, catching Kurt's one thing, it's going to be passing with another thing, and they're both trying to save fuel, so neither's going to be too interested in having too much of a battle.
No, these two on screen are not really saving fuel at the moment because they did stop, and they are still pushing on. Higginson versus Burko, hard tyre versus... is it hard tyre for Steve Burko as well here on the number 7 machine?
Hard versus soft.
Hard versus soft, and
Burko there.
And he got it stopped as well, and without locking a brake too. That's a very nice job. So that is a change for position number 9, and another drive-through penalty for Brent Foley. So he's not had a very kind night. Higginson now looking back down the inside at 2, and Burko has to leave him a bit of space and bags it up a little bit on the exit of 2, and the position switches back. So this is a very good battle for the last 2 spots inside the top 10. They trip over each other. Speck's going to get, Ewing's going to get them both.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's having quite a little run. He was one of the cars out in race 1, so he's having a good little run up from the back of the train. And to be sitting up in 11th, he's very much he's been pitting with the other SES guys in Anthony Green and Dane Liccardo. He was picking up on their strategy course, so that's probably what's helped him out as well. But yeah, very much a big gain, and he's still in position, still a lap to go. He's actually close enough now that depending where he's at with tyres, and he is out there on the softs, he could buy into this as well.
Yeah, he certainly could. They're coming down to start their final lap at the moment, just coming down to the last couple of corners. And Phil Boak and Dane Liccardo there battling over what's his 6th and 7th. So this is a bit of a scrap in the middle of the top 10. And there's only a couple more corners now to go for Stenberg as he approaches ITM corner for the final time. One thing we'll be glad to get rid of is the game glitching that's going on here with a few cars fading into walls and objects and all sorts of things at the moment. But through turns 10, 11, 12 and now on to 13, and he's made it work. He's made the hard tyre last. He's made the strategy work after being in a little bit of pain early on, being down as far as 9th after some resultant contact, and converts pole back into another win for him. And Devonish to 2nd, so good drive for him. Started, where did he? Actually, he started pit lane.
Yep.
So pit lane to 2nd place is a good return for him. And a welcome podium for Tim Redmond. And if I'm going to look at the statistics for the season, I believe for Redmond, it is his first podium of the season. So good job for Tim Redmond. Good to post a podium on home soil.
Absolutely.
Oh, scrap going on here as well. Here we go. There's a scrap going on here. So Boker's fallen down the order a bit. Higginson's got the upper hand on Burko, but he also got the upper hand on Boak. So I'm wondering if there was something that went on between Boak and Liccardo on that final lap, because Boak is just going to hold off Burko to the line here, out-drag him there, as had to take to the runoff too because of the slowing Higginson. And then Anthony Green in 7th, Liccardo was 6th, then between them was Turra in 4th, Walker in 4th. So Walker in 5th and Turra in 4th. I'm just going to be keen to see what happened in that situation there with Boak and Liccardo, because that was most interesting that they were pretty close together at the start of the final lap. And
yeah, I'm going to have to go back and have a look at that one. Actually, there was a little bit of nose and tail contact as they were racing, but I didn't miss anything big.
Yeah, we've actually found it on the replay here. So we'll go to a Paint Doctor replay for final time tonight. And here we go. So this is where it all went down. It was down at turn 8 and switch over and under switch. And yeah, contact on the corner exit. And I would say, like observers had on, that there will be a case to answer for that one.
Well, that is a shame, but it was a good run up until that point for Dane. It's going to drop him back to where Boakie's at, if not further. But a good run for the pair up to that point, actually. Good run for Boakie as well. I talked earlier that his pace maybe wasn't quite up to scratch with the rest of the guys he was racing, but he didn't let that get in his way. He's done a really good job to keep up with the guys that make up the front of the grid this year.
Yeah, so certainly is. So that is racing over for 2024 here at Hamilton. Not for the 2024 season, but for the race for tonight. Brody, you've obviously got the luxury of organising the interviewees and things for this, so I'll be keen to see who you want to bring up for this, if anybody at all.
I guess I can get the rest of the points in later, because the important bit is I've got most of the guys up the front for us to see where everything's sitting.
Kurt Stenberg's waiting for us.
Kurt Stenberg's the easy shoe-in with 2 wins.
Yep, so it's about who you want to bring in, I guess, after him.
Let's see, who else are my podium sitters? I might grab all my podium sitters, actually, which would be...
While you go and grab them then, I actually might do do something that you normally do, and then I can throw it back over to you once everything is ready to go. And that's I'll conduct the first interviews, I guess, for tonight,
Fair
which
enough.
is something I get a chance to do with Lewis Wedding, but I don't get much of a chance to do it here on the ASR Supercars broadcast. So while you go and grab a few drivers, we might actually have a chat too. It's our round winner for tonight in Kurt Stenberg. And Kurt, this place has been a bit of a happy hunting ground for you over the seasons that you have raced with us in ASR and that you've raced here. Different strategy calls in both races, both hard tyres involved, no stoppers, but had to think on your feet there for a little bit with some safety cars blighting race 1 and then no safety cars at all in race 2.
Yeah, mate. So initially going in, we looked at the no stopper. We thought it was possible, but we knew it was going to be very difficult. But I didn't know whether it was possible or not. So I went in with an open mind into race 1, and safety car really helped us save fuel. So we were able to save tons, and we had that much in reserve at the end. We were actually able to go, wouldn't say flat out, but close to flat out. So, and then that second race, well, we kind of got caught up in drama, I think, with Turmo, and we actually were back around backwards and got looped, and then we got hit on lap 1 as well by was it Dane? I think, I forget, behind me. So it was a bit of more carnage, but yeah, we saved a bit of fuel, and then there at the end, I saw Wheel, and I knew Tim was coming at me, but I saved a bit of extra fuel, so I wanted to make sure that we could, if there was a green-white checker, we were right, and also I wanted to make sure I could do a burnout after the race, because that's the most important part of it all.
Yep, that's the important part, bagging it up after the racing is over and celebrating a perfect round for you with the pole and both the wins. How quickly did your mindset have to change after you had the contact with Turmo in race 2? Because we did see the contact that was... Look, it was a bit of a difficult angle with an incidental contact at turn 2, which unfortunately took the lead away from you. But we didn't quite see the contact after that with Turmo. But how quickly did you have to change mindset from, okay, we've lost a few positions here and we're going to have to go on to an alternate strategy, but the important thing being not to panic?
Yeah, well, sort of it was my strategy to save, but I didn't know what anyone else was doing. So it was kind of my initial plan A was to save and no stop anyway. But as soon as that happened, it went, well, now it is plan A and we have to do it because it's the only way to win. So I just thought I'll sit on the back of these guys. I know that they're on hards. We'll see what these guys are doing and if they're going to pit or not. And then if they don't, then I thought towards when no one would have sort of pitted after mid-race, I went, well, I'm going to sort of do a little bit of pressure on people, try and make some moves. And then everybody sort of pitted around me and I went, well, I must be the only one here doing this. So we'll just back out of it and see. And then I obviously saw Will was coming at me. So yeah, so not too much, but we just main things to stay calm. Just really need to stay calm when you're in a race like that and think about the long term and not go, oh, I've lost all these spots, I have to get them back. It's like, no, we still have to hit the fuel number. So yeah.
Yep, no, you're absolutely right. And I mean, you're a veteran. You've done this for many, many years now, in many different series. And yeah, the hard part that a lot of drivers do struggle with is not to panic. That's the big part of the puzzle. Is if you panic and you do something that's a bit too reactive, ultimately it leads to a mistake or it leads to making an incorrect decision somewhere along the line. And you've done it beautifully tonight. You didn't panic. You've walked away with maximum points, and we will look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time for the short version of the Bend Motorsport Park. Congratulations on the performance tonight.
Thanks, mate. I just want to touch on it before you do leave me. That's exactly right what you said, and that's the mistake I made at Albert Park. I pitted, I panicked, I didn't trust the strategy I was on, and tonight you trust what you've come in with, and you make that mindset, and hopefully we can do that at the Bend and continue this on because. Looking good for the championship.
Yep, you're on 2 wins and tonight 4 wins for the season so far. You're definitely looking on odds for the championship. We'll see you then.
Thanks.
All right, so on from Kurt Stenberg finishing in first place overall for the night, we will move on to second place overall for the night, which is for Will Devonish with a third place in race 1 and a second place there in race 2. Will, talk to us about what happened at the start of race 2 there, starting from the pit lane, converting it into a podium finish.
Oh, yeah. I had 8 people in chat not tell me the race session had started, so that was great. So only saw about with 2 seconds left on the clock, and that wasn't enough time to get the setup on and out there. So Took the gamble that there'd be no safety car, and it actually worked. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy to come from dead last to second.
I was about to say, if you had been in the top four, it would have been could have been a completely different story with how things unfolded in the race. But like we were just talking to Kurt Stenberg a few seconds ago, the important thing, not to panic.
Yeah. And admittedly, in that race, if I was on the grid, it would have been a completely different strategy, and it probably wouldn't have actually worked out the way it did. So, yeah, you take the cards that are dealt with you, and you do the best with them. And we did that. We had 100 mil left in the tank on the finish line, and yeah, Turmo's out there pushing the car back to the pits right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he is after being nose into the fence at ITM Corner. Talk to us about your season so far to date. So you've been in the top 10 on 6 of the 7 occasions, and the only one you didn't make the top 10 where you were 11th at the third race at the opening round at Winton. So it hasn't been the same sort of flying start that we saw you have when you won the title last year. But it's a solid start, and at the moment it's solid enough to put you as it sits right now, second overall. But still a long way to go, but still it's actually already a fair chunk behind Kurt. I know your focus this year probably wasn't so much on the championship because you banked that last year and you just wanted to enjoy yourself, but solid year so far.
Yeah, and I guess this year we're doing different strategies than we normally do to just see what happens. And look, it's ended up being a lot of fun, and we're actually getting some results out of it doing that. So, yeah, I can't complain. And the rest of the team they're trying new things, and we're all pretty happy with how everything's going so far.
Oh, good. No, well, again, if it's a happy camp of CRE drivers, it's a happy, 1/3 of the grid basically. So good to have you all still with us, and good to see you up there again. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
All right. The third person that we're going to have a little bit of a chat to tonight is third overall for the round, and that happens to be the home driver in Tim Redmond. And Tim, for a moment there in race number 2, we thought you might be in with a shoe-in for the win. You definitely looked like you'd played a completely different hand compared to everyone around you, splitting the soft tyre strategy down the middle. It almost paid off. Unfortunately, the two in front of you sort of played the hand a little bit better.
Yeah, that's right. They definitely had the better strategy tonight in race 2. Obviously very lucky given that there were no safety cars in that round. So I came in thinking, chances are it might happen. Chances are, given the results we saw in race 1. So why not try something a bit different? And the soft gave me a really good bit of grip, enough grip to sort of get through the fluff at the start of the race. And I think I was third by turn 3 after starting 9th, so I was pretty happy with how that turned out. Managed to get through those guys, and then had some fun with Lewis for a little while, and got clear. I'm not sure what happened there, but just was enjoying being out in front for a change. It was nice feeling.
Yeah, definitely, and to do it on home soil, I think as well is probably the interesting bit, because you tried for so long over the course of time with your time in ASR to lead races. You've led a couple, you just haven't been able to bring it home, and but still banking you banked your first podium for the season. Hard to believe I'm saying that. You've again, like Will, you've been in the top 10 on several occasions this year. You've only missed the top 10 twice, but your first podium this year as well in race 2.
Yeah, it's obviously nice to be back here on the podium. I'd like to be here a little bit more often. I'd like to get a win at some stage, but I'll have to play my cards right, and one of these days it'll come together. So I'm just like I say, same as Will, really enjoying it. So just happy how the night went. All things told.
Now the important thing, you've got a second home race coming up a bit later in the year, second last race of the season, Taupo.
Yes, Taupo.
I've got to get it right now as well, since I've heard everybody pronounce it. But yes, Taupo. I'll have to write it down. It's actually so I can actually remember to pronounce it properly.
Yeah, that's okay. Pronunciation is just neither here or there. But no, I'm looking forward to Taupo. It was I think I got some of my best results there in real life, going back many years ago now. So in the wet, it's a shame we can't do in the wet for this, but try and replicate the results. But hey, look, it's a neat little circuit. It's a really busy little circuit. I think the driver's going to have a lot of their hands full going into it. And yeah, make sure you watch the real life broadcast this weekend to sort of get an idea on how to drive it. So that's the only thing I can say in
Yeah,
terms of advice.
I would agree with you on that one. I have had a bit of a hand watching it already so far, and yes, it is a very interesting type of a circuit. So we'll look forward to seeing what that delivers for us in. Actually, when is that round? I think it is the start of November, so it's still quite some considerable distance away. So we will look forward to seeing that one, but also we'll look forward to seeing you in 3 weeks. Well done.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
All right, well, Rhodey, the opportunity is now going to be there for you. You've got two other drivers with you that have had a few interesting performances tonight. Who do you want to start with?
I think I'll probably start with Dane. Dane, it's been a little while, and you not quite getting that win as of yet, but second and a sixth is going to be pretty good reward for your night's effort.
Yeah, considering I've only had the time last night to do any form of laps, I'm quite proud of that. But yeah, I think
So,
sorry.
yeah, no, all good. So you were saying to me before we started tonight that your focus was purely on the hard tire strat. Was that basically where you were banking on going for both the races, or did you leave a little bit of time in there to practice softs as well?
Truth be told, I was just kind of winging it all night. I did the complete opposite of Stanny, which was probably my downfall. I didn't have too much of a plan. Like obviously the other boys had a plan that they put me on, but I wasn't confident in it. Just purely based off the fact that I hadn't done the laps to have the info. But I trusted the boys because they had done the laps.
Fair enough. And actually, we can talk about the boys a little bit because you had a pretty good night overall. I know you technically you had a pixel driver in your team for tonight as well, with one of your guys filling in over there. But pretty good results all up. Good to see Tony up there in the top order as well. Good to see Ryan putting in some good pace, and yeah, really good work from the SES fellas.
Yeah, I'm really proud of all the boys on track and off track. Yeah, no, wouldn't be able to get half the results we do if it wasn't for everyone working together.
Absolutely. Well, just a quick final thought. We are off to the Bend in a couple of weeks' time. What's your thoughts?
About the Bend, well, I've never liked the Bend, but I didn't like Hamilton, and here we are. So,
so
yeah.
what you're telling us is we might be chatting to you again in a few weeks' time.
No way you're going to be chatting to me in a few weeks' time. I'm not making that same mistake that you baited me into last year.
Alrighty, Dane. We'll see you on track in a few weeks' time, even if we don't see you in the broadcast booth. But good work tonight, mate, and you can have a nice weekend after the work of tonight.
Thanks, guys. I'll speak to you later.
And finally, somebody else in a similar camp. Fortunately, the results haven't put him into the top 10 as things are played out, but still a very nice turn of fortunes for you, Higo, and arguably a top 10 performance in both races, even if the first race didn't quite play out at the end.
Yeah, and just quickly before I start, I believe that this evening's efforts have deserved this. Yeah, no, tonight was, I thought I was going to be writing tonight off at the start, because moving into qualifying, the game ended up having a runtime error, and it just, I was ready to write the night off. But I had some people keep me calm, keep me nice and collected, even though I did lose my temper. I locked myself back in for race one. Ended up having my pit crew screw me over a little bit. In the first safety car, I pit for hards to go to the end, and they decided to put me on softs instead. So I had to nurse the softs all the way to the end because of the track position. I didn't really want to give it up, and the rear left blew on the second bounce through the chicane on the last lap, and causing the massive pile up. And I do apologise to people behind me for that. Tire mitigation, something I've got to deal with, something I've got to work on. But yeah, race 2 was as good as it could have been. Still worked my way up from, was it 17th through to running top 5 for most of the race, and then sort of just losing it a bit at the back, and well, I've ended up in a pretty reasonable position. About time things sort of turned around for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna break all the proper decorum of the broadcast booth because you started it, and I took all my urge not to do the classic response, but I've got time now. Cold one. But just while you're here, opportunity. I know you've sort of broadly covered it, but opportunity for you now to give shout outs to the guys that have got you dialed in, because with where your results have been, sort of the back half of last year and into this year, to be running top 10 both races, and to going to race one was what it was, but race two, especially to defend that with hard tires where you probably should have been on softs, or less alcohol was you should have been on softs. Opportunity right here. Have the floor. Thank the fellas that got you here.
Yeah, I'd like to thank especially Will for giving me some setup help during the week. Cam Rutledge, he has been in my corner all week and even before. The rest of the boys at CRE for keeping me sort of nice and level, and every single one of the blokes at SES for doing the same sort of thing. In between the end of qualifying and race one, I had a chat to a couple of the guys over in the SES Discord, and they sort of just locked me back in, kept me calm. Even though, yeah, as I said, I was losing my temper a little bit, but it sort of just, and just told me, just shut it. Use the anger that you've got now as motivation to just carve it through the field, and obviously it got to me, so that's what happened.
Well, great work tonight, Higo. And look, we are officially impartial in the broadcast booth, but we're always rooting for you to have a good result.
About time it happened.
Exactly, about time. We are going to wrap it up here because it is almost 11:30. We are pushing an hour past when we normally like to have these things finished. So we will cap it off here. But good luck at the Bend in a few weeks' time. And great work tonight, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Hopefully we can replicate it at the Bend.
All good. And that has been the second half of the interviews. Now they're having you handle the first half.
Yeah, something a little bit different for a change. It was nice to do a little bit of a broadcast interview for a change. And as you said, yes, there's 2 rounds coming up, one on either side of the first couple of weeks of May. So May the 3rd is going to be the Bend Motorsport Park for the development series, and then May the 10th for the Supercars. They're both a sprint race weekend as well. So for Supercars, 3 15-lap sprints will be the duration there, and on the development series front it will be 3 12-lap sprints, so 40Ks each race for Dev, 50Ks each race for Supercars, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. So big thank you to Rhodey, big thank you to all the drivers, and a big thank you to you at home, and until next time we will see you then. Bye for now.